All right, what is up, everybody?
Hello, everybody. Charles, do you know how to change your picture to put your logo up there?
That is my logo.
Okay, you're just keeping the white circle?
Hello, everybody.
Yeah. Charles, do you know how to change your picture to put your logo up there? Whoopsie, I needed to mute my thing. I wanted to go through and say hi to everybody. We got a long list tonight. Brandon, True Rustic, OJM, hello. Cheryl, hello. Peekeel. Let's see, who else we got? Chris Thompson. Cheryl Edward. I'm probably repeating some of these. Schofield, how you doing?
Truth Seeker.
Am I muted?
No, Truth Seeker, it's me, Charles.
Oh, hi. I know you're in there, Charles.
I know that, but how do you expect me to get started without my coffee?
Oh, crap. Well, I'm still saying hello to everyone. Just hold your horses. We got Phoebe, Debbie W. Gloria's in here. Matt. And I think that I've got everybody. Did I miss anyone?
You missed Philemon.
Xander. Xander's in here. Hi, Xander. Chris Thompson. This is a long list. And Brandon. Okay. So Charles wants his coffee. I'm going to be busy doing the show, so I'm going to assign
Discerning Light?
Cheryl and Discerning Light. Oh, hi, Discerning Light. She just got there. Yeah. Oh, and Phoebe's got the coffee, too, so you guys can be on top of the coffee and the liquor. Brandon's got the aliens covered.
I'm sure they'll cover it better than you have lately.
I know. I get busy. I get sidetracked. I forget the coffee. Charles, I pulled up a map of the venue if you want to talk. I don't know if you were going to talk about the gates and stuff again.
Not really.
Did anyone have a certain thing they wanted to talk about, or does anyone in the chat have anything they want to talk about? I mean, we're going to do Vegas tonight, so I've got
some things I would like to talk about.
Okay, Charles, you go first.
But if you wanted to say something first, then go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say hello to everyone and make sure your coffee was covered. And Rustic says, oh yeah, I learned how to put things on the screen. So yeah, well, Charles is talking. I'll just put different comments up there. And if anyone has any questions, I'll pop them up there too. P-Kill doesn't have his notes. You're just going to have to wing it like the rest of us. Okay, Charles, go ahead. You got the floor.
All right. I just wanted to say happy 2020, everyone. I think it's going to be a great year. I think we're going to get some answers to this thing. And I think that the news coming out is going to be a lot better and more upbeat for everyone this year, because we probably learned a lot over the last couple of years of what not to do. So let's try to do some things that we know that we should be doing. So I just wanted to say that I just got a good feeling that 2020 is going to be better than 2019. And as I always say on these things, not that I'm on a whole lot, but when I am on, I always like to tell everyone that I have my own personal reasons for wanting to know what happened in Vegas, whether it's the narrative or whether it's something else or whatever the case. I don't say what those reasons are. They're personal, and they're personal for a reason. But that's why I'm still here. You know, sometimes we wonder why certain people are still here and all this other stuff. Well, I'm here to find out for my own personal reasons. You know, I was in Vegas, and I have just personal reasons to want to know whatever the case is, exactly what happened. And I don't feel like that I'm getting that. So that's why I'm still kind of following this thing. So on that note, I just want to, can I ramble on a little bit, TS?
Yeah, go ahead and ramble as long as you want, because me and Matt and Edward were just going to wing it. So if you got stuff, go.
Okay, I'm just going to just bear with me, everyone, a little bit of a ramble here. I just was doing a little bit of looking at some older stuff and kind of just trying to put something together, anything at all, to get the year started on some kind of foot other than it's all a drill, or other than it's nobody killed, or other than it's the narrative, or other than, you know, the windows were broken or not broken, or body cam this or body cam that, or sniper here or sniper there. So I just kind of poked around my notes a little bit, and I just want to go on this topic to start out with. And I'm just going to read this. I got this off of WebMD, and the article was by Sonia Collins. And I'm not going to read the whole entire thing, but I'm just going to read the gist of it, the parts that I thought were interesting. And that's what I'm going to do now. So bear with me here. There's a point to it a little bit. Okay, so this article is surrounding ketamine, and I'm just going to read a little bit about ketamine. If you've heard of ketamine, it's probably for its history of abuse as a club drug, but could also be one of the highest, one of the biggest breakthroughs in treating severe depression in years. Ketamine works like a flash mob. It temporarily takes over a certain chemical receptor. Under medical care, that could be a good thing, but if it crosses the line, then it can be big trouble, basically. Still being tested as an antidepressant, but has been around since the Vietnam era as an anesthesia out on the field in the Vietnam area. And at lower dosage, it can help ease pain without the use of morphine or other opioids. And it can also be used to treat burns. When misused, it can change your sense of sight and sound. It can have you can have hallucinations and feel out of touch with your surroundings and even from yourself. It can make it hard to speak or move, and has been abused as a date rape drug. So that's some things about ketamine. From what I understand, it's typically a cream that you're going to apply, and the FDA has not approved it for an antidepressant yet. However, according to John Crystal, a medical doctor over there at the chief of psychiatry at Yale, he says that it is actually being used experimentally on patients with severe depression. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there about ketamine, because as some of you, most of you probably know, that was a topic for a short time in the beginning of 2018. It was brought up about Adam Katchke and a ketamine ring that was going on, or supposedly going on, out there in the Caliente area at a pharmacy. Adam Katchke and the chief of the place, Angela Walker. That probably rings bells for a lot of you. Maybe not all of you, but a lot of you. And that ties in to the Paddock bombing, which happened in July of 2016. And the reason that ties in is because Adam Katchke, who was the owner of the pharmacy in Caliente, his brother lived in the neighborhood. His name is Richard Katchke. He lived in the neighborhood where the bombing in Paddock happened. And supposedly, through another YouTuber, and I don't want this to become a chat about the other YouTuber, but it was reported in early 2018, January 2nd or so, somewhere around there, that there was a car or vehicle shared between Adam Katsky and Stephen Paddock. I have not yet seen verification or confirmation that that is actually the case, but it is out there and it was being floated out there. And unfortunately, the YouTube page is no longer reporting on Vegas so much. So it's kind of one of those things that's interesting, but not confirmed. And I don't feel like it's gotten very much attention. So let's talk about that a little bit. Does anybody have anything before I go on?
Angela wants to know what you're talking about. I think she just popped in here. He's talking about the
Hi,
ketamine
Angela.
connection.
I'm just talking about ketamine and Adam Katsky, the pharmacist who's in prison right now with Angela Walker, and Richard Katsky, his brother, who he used to live in Panica, where a bombing happened in 2016. And it's an interesting case on a few different levels. One, Fudenberg was involved with the autopsy of the suspect in the Panica case, and also Aaron Rouse was the FBI guy who never really provided closure in that case. As far as I know, there still has not been a definitive clear motive for that case put forth. The sheriff, Kerry Lee, in Lincoln County, the county for Panica, they never, as far as I can tell, through looking myself, there's been no closure or end report, if you will, kind of similar to the Vegas thing. We've got a 3-page whatever, but we didn't really get a report. Well, it's a similar thing in Panica. There doesn't seem to be a final report there. And you take these coincidences and you tie them in with the possibility that there was a Paddock vehicle shared with Adam Katsky. I just think it's an interesting thing. There's also, and I don't want to get too far into the Bundy thing, but there's also talk out there, if you do some research, that there was some sort of a Bundy connection between one of the guys in that neighborhood, that guy's house actually, who got bombed, and also the Bundy case. But I don't want to delve into that.
Well, I know Lombardo had a connection to the Bundy case, and I followed the Bundy case pretty close. He got caught lying in court about that.
Yep. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, PKel's in the chat saying that Talal's son rented the 2 floors between Paddock and the Four Seasons. Did anyone else ever hear that?
I didn't hear anything about that.
I never did either, but that's kind of interesting information maybe we should dive into. Phoebe said she never heard it either. Okay, go ahead, Charles. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No worries at all. So just a little bit about the Panica bombing to refresh your memories for those of you who heard about it but haven't been following it too much, and just a little run over for those of you who have never heard of it, and this is maybe the first time you're hearing about it. Panica is a town near Caliente, Nevada, and it's about 150 miles northeast of Las Vegas, and it falls under the jurisdiction for these types of things of Las Vegas. So that's why a lot of the people involved in the Panica bombing in July of 2016 are the same people that were pulling the strings, so to speak, with Lombardo on the Vegas shooting. A lot of the names are very similar. The bombing happened on July 13th, 2016. And as of July 19th, 2018, according to Sheriff Kerry Lee of Lincoln County, no fully explained motive has ever been explained to him or anyone else. And that's from an article that I found from AP on 7/19/2018. That it was a 2-year anniversary article of that Panica bombing. The suspect in that case was 59-year-old Glenn Franklin Jones, 59 years old, and he was a nurse at the same hospital as the victim, or the target house. Nobody was killed in this thing, amazingly, except for the suspect, Glenn Jones. But the victim or target house was owned by Joshua and Tiffany Clough. That's C-L-U-F-F. And this Glenn Jones was a nurse at the same hospital where Joshua Clough worked a few years before, or a couple of years before. And Joshua was the supervisor of Glenn Jones. And Glenn Jones coincidentally got fired from his nursing job for misuse of narcotics. And so Glenn Jones, by all accounts, remained friends with Joshua and often did work at his house. And the neighbors thought he was a normal, cool guy, in his 50s, doing some work at his old boss's house, whatever. And then one day he blows up two bombs and blows up the house. And luckily Tiffany and the kid at the time, got out and nobody was killed. But one of the neighbors there, and he's in the article, the neighbor there, Richard Katsky, he gave an interview to the LCC, the Lincoln County Sentinel or whatever it is. And that's where I got some of this information. And, just talking about how bad it was and all that kind of stuff. But the direct tie here is the hospital, Joshua Clough, Glenn Jones working at that hospital, Adam Katsky, Richard Katsky's brother, being the pharmacy guy with Angela Walker at the pharmacy in Caliente, probably doing tons of business with that hospital. And Angela Walker and Adam Katsky today sit in jail on fraud charges. And that's an interesting thing. Supposedly there was ketamine involved. That's why I read the whole ketamine thing earlier. It's kind of an interesting drug for sure on many different levels. And it's been around a while and there's a lot of different uses for it. And then the vehicle sharing for Paddock and Adam Katsky. So go ahead, TS.
I wanted to find out if anyone can dig up proof on that shared vehicle, because that was what Morphinius was talking about right before he went dark on Vegas. And that's like a really interesting piece connection to this whole thing. Because with Paddock having that airplane and stuff, he could have been running drugs.
Yes. And also there's a lot of different ways that this can be looked at, and it's all conjecture, it's all speculation. But one thing is they're looking, they still haven't found a motive for the bombing. Well, one motive for the bombing could be if Glenn Jones was fired from the hospital as a nurse by Joshua Clough, and Glenn Jones had a beef with that whole thing, and then all of a sudden Adam Katsky and Angela Walker, they became millionaires off of this ketamine scheme. And what if that was the financial means by which Glenn Jones was surviving? What if that was his livelihood? And all of a sudden, Adam Katsky and Angela Walker are in jail. They're in prison for 4 or 5 years. Glenn Jones might freak out on that information and say, "Hey, this whole thing's screwed up. I'm gonna, blow up this guy's house or whatever."
Now, Adam's the one that's in jail, but also supposedly shared the car with Paddock.
Yes, Adam Katsky's the one in jail with Angela Walker. Well, not with her, but they were sentenced for the same thing. And he was supposedly the one who shared the vehicle with Paddock.
So do you know what prison he's in? Because a few of us could become prison pen pals and maybe get some info out of him.
I don't know what prison he's in, but that should be simple enough to find out.
Once you find that out, let me know, because a couple of us, that would be interesting if we started writing them letters. Usually prisoners are bored and like to get mail, and they'll write back just for the just because they're bored, if you give them a stamp and an envelope.
And this Adam Katsky guy, he's no slouch. I mean, he was the owner of this pharmacy. He was also on the he was also a head council member in Caliente. So he was kind of a big shot out there. He had a lot of money and a lot of resources, and he was doing a lot of crazy things. And, he's not a real old guy. I saw a picture of him. He's probably in his 40s, probably my age, 45, 48, something like that. So, I mean, he's no slouch. He's not some street runner or anything. But I'm just thinking there's a lot of different possibilities here. I mean, there's a Paddock possibility. I mean, if you look at the time frame here, and if they were sharing a vehicle, I mean, if there's cash flow, money flow going in 2016 when all this was going on, 2014, 15, 16. And Paddock's going back and forth and doing all these things. And he's working, he's getting the money, he's got this ketamine thing, they're getting rich off of this stuff. And then all of a sudden, they get caught for Medicaid fraud because they're probably, juicing up the reports for Medicaid, and they got caught. So if that was cut off suddenly, that may affect. That could have potentially affected Paddock. It could have potentially affected this Glenn Jones guy who blew up this Clough's house. Richard Katchke happened to be a neighbor. Richard Katchke, by the way, he picked up and moved his family to Idaho. So he's living in Idaho now. And I haven't seen any other interviews or anything from him. It's just an interesting case. And there's also the angle, if you believe that Paddock was, like I kind of do, was working in Las Vegas in some capacity, trying to, work with the feds or whatnot. What if Paddock was also in that capacity working with the feds or whatnot in this Caliente case, this whole drug Medicaid fraud thing? What if he was in that role for that? So there's just a lot of different possibilities with this thing. It's kind of interesting, and it'd be fun to find out a little bit more about it, especially to find out if they actually did, in fact, own a car. I just think that would be interesting.
That's quite the rabbit hole.
It is quite the rabbit hole, and I think everybody's kind of shied away from it. And I just think it's still there, and nothing's really been answered on it. And there may be nothing there. There might be nothing to find there. But then again, we know for a fact that Adam Katchke and Angela Walker are in prison. We also know that Richard Katchke moved to Idaho. We also know that Glenn Jones is dead. We also know that Joshua Cliff fired him. So we know those things are true. The things we don't know are true is if Adam Katchke shared a vehicle with Paddock, which is plausible. It's all in that same little triangle. You got Caliente, you got Reno, you got Las Vegas, you got this Arizona thing, because Glenn Jones spent some time in Kingman, Arizona, and Hague out there in Mesa. You got the ATF people out there. I mean, you got a lot of stuff going on right there in that little area. So,
Debbie wants to know if you know when they got busted in relationship to October 1st, like timeline.
Angela Walker got sentenced on April 28th, 2017. And Adam Katchke was convicted in January of 2017. So Adam went down first in January 2017, and Angela went down 3 months later in April in 2017.
So they would have already got busted a few months before that if they got sentenced on those dates. So within that same year.
They got busted in 2016. In August of 2016, they got busted. And then they, through all the courts, it only took them, maybe 6 or 7 months to finalize that whole thing and get sent up to prison, yeah.
Well, remember when Lombardo said that they were looking for something very, very bad or significant in his life that must have happened in 2016 because that's when he started to collect the guns? Maybe that is the significant thing that happened.
That's another
he was
angle
mixed
for sure.
up in with them. I mean, I'm not saying it is, but it's like interesting to put a little piece there,
Yeah, it's definitely there's a lot of those types of things. Truth Seeker, with this case, that there's a lot of things, with the behavior, and you talk about the drug, you talk about the money flow, the lack of funds, the loss of wealth. There's a lot of things that can be tied to this ketamine thing if it's true. And if it's not true, then we're just talking about a bunch of nothing.
Well, but they were pharmacists, so what was his arrest for, being that he owned that pharmacy?
Medicaid fraud.
So if he's going to defraud Medicaid, it's not so strange to assume that maybe he was dealing some drugs out of there.
Right, and if you watch the End Times report, I think I might have that somewhere. Anyways, if you watch the End Times report, it's all about ketamine. It's all about running ketamine and the whole Medicaid thing. It was a plea deal that they ended up taking, so that the ketamine itself was kind of left out of the charges. It's kind of like when certain plea deals you can be guilty, but you're not admitting guilt type of thing. Well, this is one of those deals where the substance that was being frauded was ketamine, but that's not in the actual charging documents. But he was basically, because they caught on to him because ketamine is not a common thing to prescribe or whatnot. And he was apparently pushing out so much of it, it caught under the radar. And then they went in and investigated and found all these fake claims for all this ketamine stuff. And that's how he got caught.
Pushing it out, billing Medicaid because he had to show in his pharmacy, you would have to show it coming in and going out, to balance your books. So he was billing Medicaid probably for fake people and taking it out and selling it on the street would be my guess.
In Paddock's vehicle. No, I don't know.
Yeah, very interesting. If you have that Morphinios interview, because that got scrubbed and I can't find it, I've looked for it. So if you've got it, send me a link to it.
Okay.
Because his channel had gone down at one point and I never saved it before that.
Yeah, I know.
P-Kill wants a link to it too. So he's got my email. So if you send it to me when he emails me, I can email him that link. Or if you have the link, I can just mirror it. You know that you do?
I don't know that I have it, but I think I have it.
All right, if you do, I can always do a premiere and we can just play it because I got his frantic evacuation footage. Bob at 10-1 had that saved and I played it and Jake never cared. I don't think he cares. His channel went down. He's probably glad his stuff's getting spread around. Is Special K what they call ketamine? Or is that something different?
I don't know. But ketamine is Ketamine. Ketamine.
Yeah, Special K is ketamine. It's prescribed a lot for depression now.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it says. That's what it says here too. Apparently, it's not approved by the FDA yet, but it is being used on an experimental basis, and that's coming from the chief of psychiatry at Yale.
I would think it would be more for anxiety than depression, because anxiety you need to be brought down, and it's a tranquilizer.
Well, it was used originally for an anesthesia, and then in lower doses it could be used for pain. It could also be used for burns, and apparently there's some kind of a deal where it does something to a receptor and they've discovered over the years that it could be a good antidepressant if used properly, but it can also be very dangerous if not used properly. From what I read today. Of course, I'm not a pharmacist or a doctor or a nurse or any of that stuff. I just read the stuff off of WebMD because I was interested exactly what the ketamine was. An interesting drug for sure.
Yeah, and if he's selling it or dealing it or whatever, P-Kill asked, could he be cutting it with other stuff?
Well, I mean, I guess you can cut anything with anything. It doesn't, to me, it sounds like a straight up case of, he's got the ketamine. He's making a ton of money off this stuff because apparently somewhere he had a connection where there's a big demand for it and he was making a ton of money off it. He tried to cover his tracks by billing it however he billed it, and he got caught because it's an unusual thing to be billing for. And that's how he got caught, and he ended up pleading guilty to Medicaid fraud and got 4 years in prison. That was in 2017, so he's probably getting out of prison next year. So it doesn't seem to me like, well, but who knows? I mean, once it left his hands and got to wherever it's going, I guess it could be cut or something. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but.
Well, it sounds like a fun drug. Angela did a live stream tonight about cannabis.
I'm not an innocent guy or anything, and I have quite the history when it comes to certain things, and I've done my share. Well, I've never inhaled, but I've been around my share of things, and I had never even heard of ketamine until this case, to be honest with you. I've been around the block a few times, and I still have never heard of ketamine until this case. So it doesn't seem like a real common street drug or any other kind of drug, to be honest with you.
Phoebe, I don't think there's any link with Paddock except maybe the shared car. Do you know of any other link, Charles, or is that just the one string?
So far, that's the one string, other than the fact that Aaron Rouse was heavily involved with this Panica thing, and he's been questioned on it, and he has been very reluctant not to divulge any information. So I guess if you want to include Rouse, Rouse's usual FBI covert behavior. I guess you can say that that's a link also, but I don't know if I'd go that far. It's kind of a stretch because I think Rouse is probably like that with every case he handles. John Fudenberg, he was the guy. That's something else I just wanted to mention real quick about this. Joshua Clough guy, Fudenberg reported, and this is from my article that I was reading today. Fudenberg reported Jones' suicide gunshot wound to the head, and he suffered blunt force injuries from the second explosion, which contributed to his death. So Jones, of course, is the guy who blew up the house. 59-year-old friend of Joshua Clough, the owner of the house. And here we go again with another a weird suicide wound to the head and then blunt force injuries because of the second explosion.
Send me that link.
Okay, yeah, I'll send you that.
Yeah, because Fudenberg being the coroner for Vegas with Paddock suicide, that's pretty interesting. I'd like to see that.
And yeah, I'll definitely send that to you. And Fudenberg, of course, is not a doctor. He's a political admin guy.
Right.
So, and
he was appointed.
It did not list. Yeah, he's appointed. He's an elected, paid off guy. So it doesn't list here the doctor that performed the autopsy like it did for Paddock. It listed Lisa Gavin. On this particular, I couldn't find the doctor who did the autopsy for this Glenn Jones guy. And actually, in a lot of ways, this Glenn Jones guy is more interesting than Paddock. I mean, anybody can do their own research on this guy, but he's kind of an interesting fellow himself.
Well, we can do a freedom of information request on the autopsy.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it'll really show us anything.
Well, yeah, but there's a lot of interesting things. It's a tiny little town. The neighbors liked this guy who supposedly blew up this house. There was one witness who just had apparently spoke to him an hour before he blew this house up, and everything seemed fine. And he was just a happy-go-lucky kind of neighborly kind of guy. And an hour later, he's blowing up this person's house, and then he's dead from a gunshot wound. So it's kind of an interesting case. And I get the impression from reading up on it that the sheriff out there, Kerry Lee, is not happy with the FBI at all, the handling of it, or the federal assistance, because apparently there's supposed to be federal assistance to help out the neighborhood after this thing happened, because it rattled the whole entire neighborhood. It shook things out of place for a mile span or whatever. And just in 2018, they were just then rebuilding one of the neighbors' houses based on church donations, not even from help from the feds or anything. So apparently there was a ball dropped financially as far as rebuilding goes. And this Kerry Lee sheriff guy in Lincoln County his tone does not seem very happy with the federal part of it. He asks Rouse, or the FBI, he just gets the cold shoulder and that kind of thing. So I get the impression that this Lee guy is getting thrown under the bus a little bit here.
Yeah, well, when you were talking about the autopsy with the head injury, Peak Hill had said, I have the crime scene photos, horseshit. I don't believe that Paddock did what they say he did in the time. I think he was already dead a couple hours before that, and they made up shit on that autopsy. I've studied that autopsy in depth and looked at the crime scene photos also, and it's like guy on the floor was dead more than a couple of hours, in my opinion. And then they did his autopsy to fit their narrative, so that's why I'd like to compare the two autopsies.
If that's even Paddock on the floor.
Right.
Exactly. I'm not so sure it's Paddock on the floor. I'm actually...
Neither am I.
I'd bet money that it wasn't. Big money. Not that I could ever prove it, but there's just way too much. For the new people, Matt, you want to list off all the discrepancies of why we don't think it's Paddock?
Oh, boy.
Because we've got a lot of new people in the chat.
There's a bunch.
Are you talking to me?
Whichever one of you guys want to.
Matt, you want to talk for a while?
Sure, why not?
Go ahead and list, Matt. This is a long list of the things that don't match up with Paddock.
Well, I mean, as far as the body
Well,
goes,
I think the obvious ones are the I think you had the FAA medical records, which showed surgical scars and things like this, which weren't mentioned on the autopsy.
right?
There's just a slew of different things. The I'm asked a lot about what do I think happened and all this other stuff. Well, it just seems to me that there's more evidence available that shows that that's not Paddock in the room than there is evidence that shows that it is Paddock in the room. And I'm perfectly willing, and I keep saying this, and people probably think I'm crazy or whatever, but I'm perfectly willing to accept that that's Paddock and everything else if they would just simply, show me that that's Paddock. And it just hasn't happened in my eyes. I have not been convinced that it's Paddock. I don't know about this fingerprint thing. The autopsy thing doesn't seem to match up. There's these lingering questions, I just wish that they would just, I don't understand why Lisa Gavin can't just do a clarification press conference or something and say, hey, this is why we didn't put the scars on. This is why there's a little bit of a mismatch. That we have our reasons for it, but I acknowledge that we're not putting everything on there. It was a request from his wife or it was a request from his doctor. There's all kinds of reasons. Kind of like the Hartfield autopsy, his wife requested that certain things be left out, just make it a general thing. I could buy all that. I can understand
No, the
that.
general public doesn't get to request that things are left off in a homicide or a suicide.
No.
They can go request it to the coroner, but the coroner doesn't do that. Their autopsy is supposed to be a real autopsy. Matt, go ahead and list off the discrepancies. You started to list.
All right. Well, like Charles said, the FAA thing he was talking about, the
Medical records for his
medical
pilot
records
license.
from the FAA. That's one thing. And then also in the autopsy, there's no mention of any bruises on his shoulders. I mean, if he was shooting that gun, or if he was shooting weapons out of that room, then there would have been bruises on his shoulders from that. And
Right,
then there's
especially
another
when
thing.
firing down thousands of rounds, right?
Right. But then there's also this. There was no eye protection and there was no ear protection in the room. I mean, if you're firing all those weapons, it's going to blow your hearing out.
And someone as meticulous as Stephen was, and this is coming from Eric. Eric said how meticulous and detail oriented he was. He would have went down to the gift shop or something at least and grabbed some earplugs or whatever, for sure. He wouldn't have forgot them in the first place.
Right.
Well, yeah, and there's the height discrepancy and the eye color discrepancy too. There's just way too many things, and the scars.
There's all kinds of things. He had gardening gloves on. He had these crazy, stupid shoes on it. Just the whole entire. I mean, what's going on here? He had these corded drills from 1978 in there. Like I said, there's more evidence that that's not Paddock than there is that it is. Just like there's more evidence available that Mary Lou Danley was in Vegas than there is evidence presented that she was out of the country. I have not seen any evidence that she was out of the country, but I've seen a whole slew of evidence showing that she was right there in Vegas. I mean, that's just the way my mind is working. I'm looking at it from, where I'm accepting the narrative. I'm going to accept the narrative if they can just show me the narrative, and they simply haven't done it. They haven't shown me where the $100,000 was picked up or transferred or anything. They haven't shown me receipts. They haven't shown me airline tickets. They haven't shown me any footage of anything where Mary Lou Danley bought something in the Philippines during the shooting. No credit card information, no digital footprints for either one of them, despite finding all these electronics in his room. We haven't heard his voice. We have no idea what the guy sounds like. We haven't even heard Danley's voice, for that matter. All we got was a statement from her attorney way back in October of 2017 or whenever that was. So there's so much evidence and suspicion of a cover-up that it nullifies any kind of evidence that they're trying to show, saying what happened. And that's how I'm looking at this.
I mean, if you're gonna push a narrative,
the police. I mean, I think the police in Vegas do a good job on a day-to-day basis. I lived there for 10 years, and I had a good relationship with the community and the police and everyone else. And I want to believe that they're doing the right things, but at the same time, when it doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense, and this is not making sense, at least not to me.
I think it doesn't make sense to a lot of us, and that's why we're still here digging. I know there's a group of people that believe the narrative and they just think that we're speculating and we're crazy, but it's like there's too many of us that this doesn't make sense to. I don't believe Lombardo's story. Starting off from the beginning of him, showing up on the news at 1:30 saying, "Soul shooter, we got it all under control." And it's like, there's no way they could have known that. They didn't even take the bodies out of the venue till the next morning. So they couldn't even have matched up bullets yet. So, they started off lying right there.
No ballistics, no forensics, no nothing.
And I think also another thing that starts to become a bottleneck sometimes when we're trying to figure out what happened is I actually think that all the different theories out there can be all equally true. I totally think that there could be drills. I totally think that people could be killed. I totally think that helicopters could have been used for something. I totally think that there could have been somebody in the 32nd floor. I totally think that parts of the narrative can be true. And I also totally think that there could be drill stuff involved. I think it's possible for all of us to have elements of truth in our theories without having to say, oh, it's all a drill, or oh, it's all the narrative, or it's all helicopters. I think it's possible that all of those things in some way, shape, or form can be true. And that is highlighted actually by an interview, Truth Seeker, that you posted not too long ago, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, by that UFC doctor who was the head of that hospital down there across the street from UMC. And he, just during that little interview in the parking lot, whether it was a tongue slip or Freudian slip or whatever, he said during the interview that the drill sequence was initiated. And I don't know what that means. I'm not a hospital worker. Maybe they initiate a drill sequence every time there's anything that happens, and that's just perfectly normal procedure. Or maybe he slipped and his part was a drill, and maybe they initiated an actual drill sequence. Who knows? And who cares? But what I'm saying is that it's possible that even during a real event, they're still practicing a drill scenario. I mean, I don't know that much detail. I don't think a lot of us know that much detail about how they practice these mass casualty things, or what they label them as, or whatnot. So it could be possible that actual people died, and at the same time, simultaneously, through training, that they're also practicing drill stuff, or it could have been all a drill, or whatever the case is. I'm just saying that it doesn't have to be necessarily one or the other, or one person's right or one person's wrong. It could be a combination of different things that lead to ultimately a very complicated event. I mean, no matter how you look at it, no matter what your theory is, it was a very complicated event that night. A lot of stuff was going on for a lot of different reasons. No matter what happened, whether it was all real, regardless of what your belief is, it was complicated as fuck.
I agree.
Yeah, and when you were bringing up the drill stuff, it's like that whole hocus pocus, whatever that was going on in Reno and Haven. I put all the videos of Reno and Haven that I could find together in one video. It's really long, but when you watch it all together, your jaw just drops. There's too much strangeness. The guy that was shot in the head that they won't let get in an ambulance because they have other people that are hurt worse. I'm just looking at that going, really? And the ambulance is empty and they're not rushing anyone else to it. So there's just a lot of weird stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Edward's being awful quiet.
Kind of leads me to kind of, that kind of leads me, because of what you're just saying there, it kind of leads me into the direction of possible ground shooters, unexpected ground shooters that may have killed some folks, because I'm pretty sure that there's some folks that died here. I mean, in fact, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight was Eric Silva, the only CSE worker that night that I know of that got killed. A 21-year-old Eric Silva, and
the
his
CSE
mom
guard.
Say again.
He was the CSC guy that was inside helping people at the venue and then got killed, right?
He was at the very front of the stage, very much toward the beginning. And
With the yellow shirt?
I'm sorry, you broke up there. What?
I think he had a yellow shirt on and he was helping people.
Yes, he was 21 years old. He had a yellow shirt on with the blue sleeves, and he was up front, and he was hopping over the gate. There's a video out there that actually shows him hopping over that railing, and that's probably where he got shot there. The interesting thing about that too is, and I don't know if any of this is true, or I can't prove any of it for sure, but there was the single shots before the volley started. I'm kind of leaning towards the theory, if I might, that some of those single shots are real shots, possibly from the ground, and then the volleys, if I'm going to go down the speaker route, then the volleys may have been not so real, and the single shots maybe from the ground shooters, and that would explain why. And there was camera footage of Silva there, but there's no footage of massive amounts of bullets sprayed in that area. But it's possible, I think, that a ground shooter could have picked him off, because he was up high at one point. He was up high on that rail with a yellow shirt on, very visible, and I could see how a ground shooter could pick him off right there. And also, if you remember, before the volley started, there was those single shots in that lady that was sitting up in that VIP section, where people started taking care of her before the volleys. The concert was still going on. There was those single shots, and then there was that little chaos going on behind the stage there, where that lady got hit in the head. And I think that very easily could have been a ground shooter as well, maybe prematurely doing his thing, or maybe not part of something, just being a rogue shooter. I also think that's possibly how Officer Hartsfield got picked off on Mandalay Bay Road area down there. And I'm just kind of thinking that there may have been a shooter or shooters down along in that dirt area, in that dark area by the front of the Oasis apartment, also circling around towards Gate 7, that dark, gloomy kind of area there. It just seems like the angles and the people that did get shot and killed there could have been picked off by ground shooters. And if I'm going to go down the false volley speaker route, then that would make sense. That would fit that scenario where the volleys were coming out of the speakers, but there may have been ground shooters also. And we may have missed a lot of the ground shooting shots heard during the volleys, but we did hear some of them before the volleys started and after the volleys ended. For instance, the shot that everyone's calling the suicide shot, maybe that was just a shot. It could have been just a shot that we heard. Or, there's other little shots and angles and buildings getting hit that don't make sense. Officer Brady or Brady Cook, he's out there on the thing over there by Gate 1 or by Gate 4-ish over there. Along this, just doesn't make any sense that he would get hit the way he got hit from Mandalay Bay. So maybe that's an instance where there was a ground shooter hitting him, picking him off. I don't know, but it kind of fits into that fake volley speaker LRAD thing a little bit.
Edward, what do you have to say? You've been really quiet, but you were talking in the chat. Matt, you too. Both of you are being silent. They're going to leave you hanging, Charles. Go ahead. I was trying to give them a chance to talk, but they're both still muted.
Or maybe they are talking, but they're on mute.
They would know they were on mute by now because they'd hear us talking about it. I'm going to guess that they both stepped out to smoke a cigarette.
So for Rhea saying, I don't believe there was anything fake about this. And that's very, very valid. I mean, I don't have any reason to believe that there's anything fake about this either. What I do know is that what they have fed me, the information that they have provided to the general public for Rhea, not match what I've seen myself. And now it doesn't mean that anything I think is fake. It just simply means that the information or the storyline or the narrative that they have pushed out doesn't make sense to me. You know, I'm not saying that they used fake gunshots or anything like that. I'm saying that if you believe that, if you do believe that fake, which a lot of people do, then the single shot heard outside of those volleys would make sense. My personal belief is that I was not there, so I don't know what shots were fake, but I do believe that Eric Silva, for sure, was shot and killed. And just based on that, I have to believe that the shot came from either where they're telling me it came from, the 32nd floor, which I don't see that much evidence of a spray going on where Eric Silva was, or I had a shot on the ground somewhere. I'm more inclined, based on what I've seen and based on what I've heard, that Eric Silva was probably shot from ground level. And that's just my opinion. But I'm not saying one way or the other whether something's fake or whether something's real or all this other stuff. I don't get into that kind of semantics. All I'm saying is that based on what I've seen, it looks to me like Eric Silva and the lady in the VIP area were probably shot from ground level.
See, I agree. I don't think that it was fake either, but I don't believe that it all came from Mandalay Bay. I think there were ground shooters in there.
I agree with 4RE as well. 4RE saying she doesn't believe it's fake, just the info after the fact.
Yeah, they made up stuff to cover up because they didn't want us to know how it happened, but I think the event itself was real. People were shot and killed, yeah.
That's what I think I was saying. You were saying, 4RE saying, Pastor Mo
we're all
said
kind of
in there.
saying the same thing, yeah.
I think the truth would cause a panic in the American public as well, Pastor Mo. That's why they came up with their story.
Right, they needed to keep tourism intact for their economy, and they also, if it's national security, needed to keep the country safe. You know, if they had announced something like, you know, what happened with 9/11, we went to war and we're still there, you know. So if it was something like that, they're not going to say.
Well, there was a bunch of fuckery in 9/11
and there's
too,
a lot of
Go ahead, Charles. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, Edward, that there is a lot of stake right now in Vegas financially. You got the big Raiders thing going on. You got the World Resorts being built near the convention center. You got another property that was just bought the other day over there by the convention center, strip mall where Ross Dress for Less down there near Desert Inn. It was just bought by a major developing company. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're trying to beef up the foot traffic and just the general allure of the north end of the strip. Of course, the Raider Stadium's on the south side of the strip, and they're trying to also simultaneously build up the north side of the strip. And the strip meaning from say Sahara and Las Vegas Boulevard all the way south to the Mandalay Bay or whatnot. But the north part of the strip pretty much ends at Sahara. That's where the Stratosphere is, and they're trying to make that area. Right now, it's kind of ghetto-y, to be honest with you. There's a lot of development, a lot of problems going on down in that north, trying to beautify it, if you will. And they have a lot of expensive stuff going on, and I'm sure they, I have no idea if any of that has anything to do with the shooting, but it gives another reason to downplay the significance or the importance of what actually happened, for sure. I mean, for investors and all that kind of stuff, to downplay whatever they can downplay. Sure.
Isn't down there on that end of the strip? Aren't they going to put that World Resorts down there?
Yeah, that's down there, but it's not as far down as the Strat.
Okay.
It's like Desert Inn-ish.
Yeah, the Resort World, I drove by it when I was there. They've got it on, like, there's a big wall around it, but they have the wall painted so you can kind of see it off to the, if you're driving north up the strip, you see it on the left-hand side. But yeah, the Stratosphere is farther down. I still got to get you there, Edward, because there's so much to see.
There was
Right.
something else kind of interesting that happened in Vegas just before Christmas, which is kind of unrelated to anything we're talking about right now. But I don't know if you guys ever heard of the Alpine Motel. It's a real cheesy motel apartment place, and it's down
No.
there on 9th Street downtown. You're like Fremont, East Fremont area, and a lot
The
of it
park your
burned
car and
on
run
December
section.
21st. They killed. Go ahead.
No, I said Fremont area is the park your car and run to Fremont Street real fast area. If it's dark.
Yeah. But a part of that motel, the Alpine Motel, burned down, and it killed 6 people and injured 12. And that they said that was the worst fire, or the second worst fire, deadliest fire since the 1980 MGM Grand fire. And I just thought that was kind of interesting, that all those people in that small little place perished in that fire. It's really sad. Right before Christmas, I used to live
The
right down
fire
the
was
street
bad.
from there. I could feel that. It was just a faulty stove or something like that, because the heat wasn't working in a motel. So somebody was running their stove in the middle of the night. It happened like 4 in the morning, trying to stay warm and keep their kids warm or whatever. And the thing burned down and, killed 6 people. And I saw that. And I just thought that was kind of sad and unfortunate. But I didn't realize that it's the second largest casualty fire in Vegas since the 1980 MGM Grand. I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, I thought at first you were talking about the MGM fire. That killed like 80 people.
Yeah.
So you were talking about a different fire.
He's talking about the Alpine fire that happened December 21st.
Yeah, Alpine Motel. It's a real dive. Been past there many times for several different reasons, which I don't want to talk about. It's a shame, though. There's a lot of families in that area.
This article saying it's the worst fire fatality in that particular fire department's history.
Wow.
Yeah, it was bad. And it's so sad, because it's in one of those parts of town that nobody talks about, but there's a lot of good people, families there trying to make ends meet. And this big fire happens and it gets very little, Red Cross set up some little makeshift thing at a school, but it was like, I didn't get any kind of support like it would have if it was on the strip or something. I don't even know what happened. And I think that's just one of the saddest things I read before the new year. That family, I could just picture those poor families, their kids in there, right before Christmas. Truth seeker.
I was muted all that time, wasn't I?
I didn't hear you. I got nervous.
No, I was muted. Charles, do you want to answer Jen's question about how we know the event was real? I mean, I'm going to assume that all of those people that were in there weren't lying, that said, people died in their lap and were shot in their lap. And, I just going to give them the benefit of the doubt that there's no way all those hospitals lied about all those injured people. But what would you tell Jen for the proof that the event was real?
Well, I'm not going to try to, I'm not, that's not what I'm actually. Do you mind if I talk a little bit about the Eric Silva thing?
Sure, go ahead.
So I did, I can't stay on too long tonight, but I wanted to make sure I got this in regarding Eric Silva, and I thought this was interesting. This was from, I pulled this from a Review Journal article from October 11th, 2019, so just a couple of months ago, shortly after the 2-year anniversary date. And his mom is Angelica Cervantes, and she spoke of her. This was for a dedication to Eric 2 years later, and she spoke at 250. Where was this at? It was at 250 Northeastern Avenue at the East Las Vegas Community Center. And she spoke there. It was a tribute for her son. And they presented, they unexpectedly presented a plaque, and they donated a tree to his honor. Jay Purvis, you may have heard that name before. He's the vice president of the Las Vegas chapter of CSC. CSC is Community Contemporary Services
Corporation. Yeah, that's the security
corporation. So that's who Jay Purvis is, and he was there, and he spoke to people at the ceremony. There's about 80 people there, and also I just want to reiterate that CSC, they did relabel the local training center there in Vegas after they now call it the Eric Silva Center. And I just wanted to throw that out there because Eric Silva was a very active member in CSC. He also worked the Life is Beautiful event downtown Las Vegas a couple of weeks prior to the October 1st. He was very well liked. He had just spoken to several people before the shooting happened. He was in an upbeat mood. He was a very liked, hard charging young man, 21 years old, and he was shot down. And I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't think that got any attention. I don't think that ceremony or that tree or that honor that he's been given here, it got much attention. So I'm giving it a little bit of attention right here. He was, as far as I know, the only CSC worker that was shot and killed, as far as I know, as far as I've read. So
I think so too. It's the only one that stands out. I think there was only 7 people from Nevada that died. Most of them are from California. There were a lot from other states, but the biggest majority of them was California.
So that's about all I wanted to touch on, Truth Seeker. If you guys have anything else.
Edward, did you get back? Edward and Matt, either one of you?
I spoke a few words earlier about the Alpine fire.
I kept thinking you and Matt keep stepping away.
I'm here.
Okay, you guys want to talk a little bit? You've been quiet.
Well, there people have been talking.
That's why I'm giving you the floor.
Well, I'm sure everybody knows what my theory is on this whole Vegas thing. I don't know if Charles knows or not.
Well, we got a lot of new people in the chat, so go ahead.
Well, I don't believe this was fake. I believe this was a real event. I do not believe that Stephen Paddock was the one that committed this crime. There is no evidence to prove that he committed it. There's no muzzle flash coming from the hotel that I could see. I don't know if helicopters were involved or not. I mean, it's possible, but you know, I haven't seen any real evidence to prove that. The windows, I believe, were broken out later after the fact, because you don't see. I mean, if you watch that video footage from the LVMPD helicopter, when that video first starts out, they circle the Mandalay Bay numerous times, and they don't show the windows of the hotel that were allegedly broken until later on, until about an hour and a half into the video. Seems a little strange to me. And then when they reached 134, how come they didn't show any body cam footage of that? You know, them actually entering the room.
Right, yeah. I don't know. They're going to come up with some excuse that that's tactical operations, and they don't have to show tactical operations. Isn't that right, True Seeker? Aren't they going to say something like that?
Yes, when I called the POI guy at LVMPD and asked him why we didn't get 134, he said he didn't know why we didn't get it, but their rules will show that if it shows tactical, strategic type things that they don't want other people to know for, you know, future crimes, they can get away with not having to release it under the court order. So he didn't know specifically about 134, but that was his answer, that he thought possibly, or his other answer was if there was something gruesome and violent, they wouldn't have to show it.
Okay, well, you got a dead body on the floor in 135.
How much more gruesome could you get? Agree.
Exactly.
I agree.
To me, that doesn't make any sense.
He wasn't talking about this case in particular. He was just talking about the two rules that they would be allowed to not release something if they were court ordered to release it.
Right. But I believe that there was something in 134 that they didn't want us to see.
I agree.
I don't know. Okay. What I believe is that they didn't want to show 134 was because the window wasn't broken.
In 134 or 135?
In 134.
Oh, see, I think 134 was broken and 135 wasn't. So you think the other way.
I don't believe either window was broken. Because, like I said, when I was mentioning about the video from the LVMPD helicopter, the Maverick helicopter, they didn't show anything about the windows until later on.
It was an afterthought.
Well, but the helicopter circled that hotel numerous times when that video started.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not hone in on those windows until an hour and a half into this video. Because that video actually stops for about, I don't know, a good half hour or so.
They pan away a lot, too.
Well, they pan away, but also the video is interrupted for about, I don't know, half hour or so. That seems very strange.
Everything about this case is strange.
Well, yeah, of course. There's, no matter how you look at it, there's a whole slew of things that just don't add up. This narrative that they're pushing, they keep saying, oh, well, this happened, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're
HVAC's got a question for you.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Okay. If either windows were not broken at time of shooting, but you believe people got shot and killed, where did the firing come from? Ground shooters. That's my answer.
Possibly ground shooters, possibly from the air. Take your pick.
Edward, what's your answer to that?
I pick ground shooters. I always say ground shooters since day one.
And then, you know, we were talking, Charles was talking about the Brady Cook thing. Officer Cook.
He got shot from a different angle.
Right. He wasn't shot from the Mandalay Bay area. I believe the way that he was facing, west. You know, or at least his body, you know, his right arm was facing west. Because he was down behind that patrol car.
Wasn't his arm up on like the hood of that car though, or whatever?
I don't know. I don't believe so. I would actually have to look at the video again if I could find it. But I believe he was shot from the west. I mean, there could have been snipers, you know, who knows? But as far as
right, yeah.
You know, coming from the Mandalay Bay, no.
Ferrari says the first shots, tall ace of spades, Martinez, GoPro, and Brazilian, and one more, and a body cam all show muzzle flash out of 134. It was broken. I only saw muzzle flash in one of those.
I saw muzzle flash about a brief flash of a second of it.
Now, my opinion on that is that these buildings all reflect off each other. They're all made out of mirrored glass, and Las Vegas is the most twinkly, sparkly place you would ever be if you've never been there. So all these things people are seeing in video that they're thinking might be muzzle flash possibly could just be twinkling flashing lights, because it's all over the strip and they're all mirrors reflecting.
Right.
P. Kill wants to know what you're talking about the tower.
Who, me?
Whichever one mentioned the tower. I don't know. Maybe someone in the chat was talking about a tower. I'm not sure.
Are they talking about the two towers that were across the street from the venue?
I don't know. There's so much going on in the chat that I can't keep up with it. So I'm guessing if you guys didn't mention the tower, somebody in the chat was probably talking about a tower. So they'll just have to answer it in the chat. There's a lot of activity going on in the chat. I can't keep up. I keep trying to put things on the screen every once in a while.
Yeah.
11 Bravo, what's up?
I've missed you, 11. You must have had a fun Christmas. You left us for a couple weeks.
Yes, there's multiple witnesses that see glass falling. Namely, what, the bus stop video or whatever? But they see, like, glass falling from Mandalay Bay after the shooting's over, like, during the last suicide shots, right?
Yeah, that's when they say that they saw it.
Because, I mean, it was like present tense right then. There's glass falling from Mandalay Bay. It wasn't earlier some glass was falling from the building. No, that it was like happening right then.
Do you guys remember, someone had just said it in the chat, do you guys remember early on in the news conferences when Lombardo talked about he had built a platform? So when the pictures came out, I was like looking for like this wooden platform up there, and it's like, whatever happened with that story? Do you guys remember hearing that?
No.
Do you, Edward?
No, but I mean, here, I got a video for you to play.
You found a video? What you got? Where are you going to send this link?
You know, in a drop of a hat, basically.
No, but send it to my messenger because I've got the chat pulled up, but the chat's like the chat with the chat room. It doesn't have that part where the private chat with us is. So I don't want to hit a button and screw something up. Oh, wait a minute. I see the private chat. Hang on.
Looks like Charles has left us.
Yeah, Charles stepped out. He probably got tired of talking. Okay, Marty remembers the platform part. Somewhere Lombardo said that the guy had built a shooting platform. And I had thought that's what all his tools were up there for. And when all those pictures came out in the FIT report, it's like I was hunting for the platform and there wasn't one. And it never got mentioned again.
I never heard anything about that.
Hi, Mark. Mark says that Nick Vegas showed glass falling at 10:05. What video was it that Nick was showing? Do you remember, Mark? Okay. Link coming from Edward. So talk for a minute, you guys, while I go pull this link up. Edward, tell him what your link's going to be about.
My link's just the early CNN report, how they changed the story on what had happened with Paddock. Because at first they reported that Paddock was already dead when they got there, and then they changed that and they reported it as Paddock charged them. And
I didn't get your link yet. Where'd you put it?
on the afternoon of the.
Oh, I see. In the private chat. Hang on. This video might be inappropriate for some viewers.
Did they do that to that one too?
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to screen share it. The one you just sent. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Wow, they're doing that to all my videos. Damn.
Okay, I'm going to hit the screen share button. Hang on a second.
I'll mute.
That's the second video of mine they did that to. See, they're going to hit anything that holds any truth to it.
Right. It's been back and forth on this one. You know, it was initially reported that perhaps he had taken this online at the very moment the SWAT team was making entry into his room on the 32nd floor. Now they've clarified that point. They say that as the SWAT officers actually broke in the door, that the gunman charged them, made it through the door, struggled with the officers, and was able to get off at least one shot, wounding one SWAT officer in the leg. And then the gunman was killed. There was interaction. It was initially reported that perhaps he had taken his own life at the very moment the SWAT team was making entry into his room on the 32nd floor. Now they've clarified that point. They say that as the SWAT officers actually broke in the door, that the gunman charged them, made it through the door, struggled with the officers, and was able to get off at least one shot, wounding one SWAT officer in the leg. And then the gunman was killed.
The lie detector determined that was a lie.
Just don't tell him I've gone crazy.
You can cut that off now. Anyway, so Dave clarified. Who the fuck is Dave? Somebody called them and said, no, CNN, you got it wrong. This is what happened.
I think so. They had 3 different stories, and we had the one cop that actually lied under oath on the phone to a judge to get a warrant. So there's like 3 different stories about the demise.
There was still 3 3 different stories, even in the search warrants, if you read through them. So I
Right.
think that they went with the one story, which is the story that was actually what they were rolling with, but somebody else called and said, "Fuck, man, he done fucked up. Let me call CNN," and told his story, and his was happened to be the wrong one. Because then after that, CNN had to redact that one again and say, "Oh no, he was already dead." So who the fuck called you with that bullshit then?
Well, CNN sometimes just makes up bullshit, but you got to go. Like, I mean, if you're seeing Lombardo say it or you're seeing it in a search warrant, that's different than CNN just saying it. Because I think sometimes they make up stuff just to have a good story.
The
And then
news
later
can
they
legally
retract it.
lie, but they're not going to use the words "now they've clarified." That means somebody called them and said, "Look, you got it all wrong. This actually happened."
RE says the CNN transcripts are still up.
And you'll read in the transcript, they said, "Now they've clarified." That means somebody called them and said,
Right, but
"Hey,
that
this is
also
what
could mean
happened."
that at the beginning they just made it up.
That he was already dead. Well, they made up the right story then, right?
Yep, they sure did.
He was 419 for a minute.
Maybe Jackie Heinrich sent him the pictures first, and they looked at his neck and said, "Yep, dead."
Right? Maybe. You never know. But they had the right story, and then some officer with LVMPD called and had to clarify it the wrong way.
I don't know. This whole thing's crazy, if you ask me.
Hey, buddies,
Yep.
how you doing? Yeah, I don't trust the news. The thing is I never have the TV on unless I'm watching like a movie on Netflix or something. I don't watch the news, but the last couple days since this stuff happened with Iran, I've been like clicking the TV on and off, and every time they get into politics, I turn it off, and then a half hour later, I turn it on to see if there's anything new.
I haven't even been watching
Yes.
the news.
For Arigo, right. They said the suspect came through the door and managed to shoot an officer in the leg before they took him out, I believe is what it said.
And would they mean officer, or would they accidentally be calling Campos an officer?
Well, the whole I don't know. I don't know who would
lie. Yeah.
I don't know who would call and tell him that. You know what I mean?
Oh, 4RE, I talked to Luis Castro the other day. He's got some more stuff, and he said he's going to be posting it by March, but he wouldn't tell me what it was. I tried to get him to come on the show, but he's trying to keep low profile. But I know you're the one all up on Twitter, so let me know if you see him post his stuff, because I'm very rarely on Twitter.
I have a question for you, Truth Seeker.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
No, it's nothing bad.
I have an alibi.
Okay. That hard drive, have you found anything?
I'm still going through it. I'm going through it piece by piece. So I've only gotten to batch 3, and batch 3 I'm stuck on because there's these weird files in it, and I can't figure out how to export them. So LVSA is trying to help me figure out how to export them. They're those files that he didn't upload. Remember the CCTV footage that he's uploading now? Because everyone was like, well, you were hiding it from us. Why didn't you give it to us? It's like, now I'm seeing why, because it's like really hard. You have to put a special program in your computer and open it up. And I sent this stuff to Dub to help me figure it out. So anyways, I don't want to move on to batch 4 till I'm done with batch 3. Right. But because I'm trying to go in order. So yeah, I haven't found anything pressing in there yet. I posted the Bitsko and Newton footage, and batch 2 is all PDFs. Which I uploaded. I started an archive.org page, so I uploaded those, but those are the same as the ones we had before, and batch 3 is what I'm working on. But LVSA is hard to get a hold of, and Dub we're playing an email back and forth thing. So I'm trying to figure out how to get these things downloaded. But they are the same CCTV footages that LVSA has been uploading in the last couple months. I just don't know if they're longer or shorter. I know the one that we pulled up said it started at 3 a.m. and it really didn't. It started earlier. And LVSA and WEG's copy is correct, and mine has the wrong timestamp on it. And we could tell that it was the wrong timestamp because of the time sunrise came up. So it's like, that's very weird that supposedly we both got the same set, but mine has the wrong timestamp. Because someone had to put that timestamp on there. There's a counter clock at the bottom, and then there's an actual timestamp at the top. So that's one odd thing I found, but I mean, it's not anything huge.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to know because you haven't said anything lately, so.
No, it's just because I'm still stuck in the same spot. Plus, I've been not feeling too good, so I haven't worked on it too much. I did work on it a little bit today, but I've been working on other stuff too. Plus, I've been trying to keep up with this Iran thing. I mean, this really, I'm glad he did something, but it's like there's going to be some blowback from this. And it's like I'm a little bit worried about how many of our soldiers are going to die when they blow back. Plus, I don't know if they're going to do stuff inside our country or just to soldiers in other places. But I mean, I'm glad. It's kind of like when you're being bullied, you sock them in the nose. So I'm glad Trump did it. But it's like there's always the chance the bully's going to get up and do something to you. And I think Iran's going to do something back. So.
Yeah, I really haven't watched anything on it.
Oh, you haven't been keeping up with it?
I mean,
oh God,
pieces, but not.
Yeah, I've been on it. Like, I mean, being obsessed. Like, I've got the news off and on. You know, I turn it on, and then they start talking politics, and I turn it off, and then half hour later they're talking about it again. Today, Trump tweeted that he's got 52 targets already ready to go to signify the 52 hostages they took like a long time ago. So Trump's playing hardball right back. And yesterday they bombed the green zone around one of our bases over in Iraq, but they didn't kill anybody. Iran bombed them. So stuff's going on.
The hostages back in like what was 1979?
I think so. Because I can't think of another time there was a big batch. I was a little kid when that happened, and I don't know if anyone else remembers it, but when that happened, when Iran took all those hostages and we had all the sanctions against them, you had to line up at the gas station, could only get gas on certain days of the week. It was bad. That's the only time I've ever seen a gas shortage like that in my life, outside of, a hurricane or something. But yeah, that went on a long, long time. I remember being a kid, being with my grandma, and it was like, oh, it's the day we can go get our gas. And there was cars lined up all up and down the street constantly.
Yeah, that was back in during the
late 70s.
Yeah, the oil embargo, whatever it was.
I agree, Bodies. Trump's not scared to hit him with bombs. Let's just hope they don't have any friends. China and Russia have condemned what we did, so let's hope they don't run to Iran's rescue because they got bombs too. Nuclears. Has anyone noticed if gas has gone up?
No, it's like 256 by me.
All right, so it hasn't hit it yet.
I'm sure it will.
Yeah, and Marty says sleeper cells are what you have to watch out for. I kind of agree with that. I live a few miles away from Dearborn, Michigan, and it's all Arabic, and I wonder if there's a couple sleeper cells mixed in there.
There's a town near me that's predominantly Muslim.
Well, for the most part, they're really nice people, but that's why the sleeper cells will like mix in there just so you don't notice that they're there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
If you got a town that's got 500 Muslims, that's a good place to go hide. Then they don't stick out. Monday, Pastor Mo is doing a live stream. It's something we've all been looking forward to for a long time.
Oh, I can't wait. I want to hear
I
the
know, I'm
information she
waiting.
got.
If you're not subscribed to Pastor Mo, go ahead and subscribe to her because Monday she's going to do a really good live stream.
I'll be at work.
Oh, you'll have to catch the repeat of it. But yeah, she's been stringing us along on this since before Christmas because she had company and couldn't do it. So we've been going, come on, some Mondays for night.
Oh, I'll listen to it.
Did anybody see Brian Shields' video about the speakers?
No. Was that just recent?
Yeah, it was the other
Yeah,
day. It was called
couple of nights ago, late night, the late night premiere he had. What was it called? It was two
LAPD.
LAPD officers. Right.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
there was an interview with some LAPD officers, and I actually made a video about it to show. Anyways, the officers were talking about how it was coming out of the speakers, but yet, they knew people were getting shot. And then Brian shows clips of, all these people saying it's the speakers, it's the speakers. Well, then in the comment section of Brian's video, a lot of people were discussing whether it was or wasn't speakers. So my knowledge was that if, Jason Aldean was on stage and dropped his microphone, that's not going to pick up gunshots and blow it through the speaker. But I did some research today and found some interesting information that it's like gunshots could have been coming out of the speakers, not meaning that there weren't real gunshots, but just meaning that there's another way that could have happened. So anyways, I'm going to screen share that. I just kind of want everybody's thoughts on it. I don't know for sure if this is what happened, but it would be a reasonable explanation. Okay, hang on.
So here it is. Yolanda has 8 years on the job, and Brandon has been with the LAPD for 15 years. He's a former Marine, and they both love country music.
Actually, it's great music, and I think it's very patriotic, and I think it's a good little connection also with law enforcement and country.
Yeah, I've been to country concerts most of my life, listened to country music, but what we did observe out there, and specifically in Vegas, was police officers wearing their shirts. There was a lot of law enforcement shirts out there, the thin blue line shirts with the flags on them. There was a lot of fire department that I saw, and just looking at people, and you can tell that they're police or military. There's a lot of military folks out there as well. A lot of families, a lot of great people that I saw throughout the 3 days.
You're served time, did you?
In the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I did time in the Marine Corps. I was in and out for 18 years. Did a solid 9 years total, and I've been out for a few years now.
Were you ever deployed overseas?
Yes, sir. One deployment in 2004, and I went out there with 2-5, and I was with an infantry unit, and I served in Ramadi, Iraq.
Wow. So let's go to the concert. You'd been there all weekend long?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Was it a good weekend?
It was, yeah.
I told you, you're on the ground. Those are shots? Shots fired? Sounded like it. Yes, it. You just don't mess with us, get down. Who's messing with me? What's the gunshots, okay? That's the speaker. Is it shots or what? It's electrical. You see the screen? Oh yeah, it's electrical. No, I'm not gonna whack.
touched on a little bit. But when the second volley went off, it was much louder. I immediately recognized gunfire, just with the military and law enforcement background. I immediately recognized gunfire. And at the same time that this is going on, I'm seeing people drop. And if you're looking at the stage,
drop down or get hit.
Looked like they got hit. I was immediately knew gunfire, and then I saw people get hit, and I saw people drop. And if you're looking at the stage from our position, we were about the 7 o'clock, and the Mandalay Bay was off to the 1 o'clock position, and it was just to the right of the stage. So we had a clear view of the Mandalay Bay. I didn't have any idea where the gunfire was coming from. I thought it was coming from inside the venue, because as loud as it was it was echoing, and then the microphones up on the stage were picking up the gunfire, and now it was making the gunfire almost come out in a 360 direction. So it was all the way around you, but where I first heard it from, and where I saw the victims drop, was directly about our 1 o'clock, and it was just off to the right of the stage where we can see the Mandalay Bay. So I saw a lot of people, probably 8 to 10 people, drop right there, and I knew it was gunfire at that point. I thought the suspect was inside the venue.
No, they're right next to the fucking speakers. It's my record. We all went to fucking elementary school. I know, but it's still I know. Why would you run? Stay where you are. Run. You're good. Fucking fake gunshot. Everybody, it's a lot of rockets. It's like an M8. It's like an M8. Yeah, why that shit to you in high school? Not what a gunshot sounds That's not.
Based on the noise, on how loud it was, and how many people I see get shot, probably 60 yards from us, 70 yards from us. I see all these people go down, and that's when I knew it was going to fall.
Yeah, and it wasn't like it was, like it was consistent gunfire. There was no pause. Yeah. I mean, after the first, yes, it was automatic. Yeah. So after the first volley, the second volley started, and it just, kept going.
Confusion about where the bullets were coming from, or even if they were bullets. Some were frozen in panic. Others fled for their lives.
Found first, and that's where I was trying to get to.
In talking to people that were at the concert, a lot of people thought that the gunman was in the crowd in the front over there by the stage. Right?
Yes, sir. And that's looking back at it, that's because he was shooting from that direction. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But what made it worse was these are weapons that are being fired automatic, so it's much louder. Now you're getting a lot of echoes, but then also those microphones picking up this sound was making it a lot louder than it was.
Sounding like it's coming from the stage because those speakers are right at the stage.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And again, that's where I saw the casualties initially, and that's where I saw people getting hit.
These crowd mics right here. I don't want that crowd. I want that crowd. I want to hear individual people. Some mics, I'm gonna come way down. I want to hear cotton candy, cold beer. I want to hear people. I want to occasionally actually lower my crowd mic volume because I'm actually getting crowd and not just a big wash of sound.
All right, thanks, Jason.
There's a variety of microphones that we use covering the NBA. Anywhere from Omni lavaliers to cardioid boundary mics, to cardioid short condensers, to multi-pattern large diaphragm mics, and long hypercardioid shotguns and short shotguns. I'll use up to 5 VP89 long shotguns, having them on all of my handheld cameras on the court. And I also use a variety of short VP89s along the scorer's bench and hand those hard left and right, hearing the ball bounce from that, using short shotguns along, spaced up and down the sides of the court, and using hard panning so that you hear the movement from left to right and right to left for the slapback. So the Omni mic below will capture the swish of the net, and the high mic will capture the clank and the bounce back of the rim after a slam dunk. Can be a challenge because every arena is different. So typically I'll come in and I'll survey the arena. I'll look at where the PA is and to see how close I can get to the people. And then based upon those decisions is where I will place my microphones.
In addition to what the band is doing, we'll put up 4 or 8 or 16 audience mics, depending on the size of the venue. I mean, for Rush, we used 14 audience mics. In a bar, I'll use 4. In a place like Massey Hall, I'll use 6. Like a 2,000-seat hall, I'll use 6. At a hockey rink like the ACC, we'll use a dozen mics. And at a place like the Sky Dome, you might use 16 or so. Like you're really trying to make it sound big. If you only put up 2 mics for audience in the Sky Dome, it sounds like there's 500 people there because the mics just pick up whatever they're near. And so it doesn't sound the way it looks. So every time you add a mic, it's almost like you're overdubbing another 1,000 people. It just gives you more depth and more options. So we'll have a couple of shotguns on stage, a couple of cardioids on stage. So the shotguns will pick up the individual claps and the cardioids will give you the big wah. And then you maybe hang a couple from the ceiling to get the big arena sound because that's a certain sound.
Just omnis or? Yeah,
and they're already there. Like generally at any hockey rink, they've got 3 or 4 mics up there for hockey already. And so you just ask the house guy, hey, look, rather than us running 600 feet of cable up to the roof of the ACC, can we just tap off the hockey mics? And like some of the shows, when we do the Junos, there's a guy just doing audience. There's like Mike Molyneux's there with a 48 input Yamaha console and 20 audience mics, and he's just doing the audience mics. He's there for 2 days hanging audience mics in the hockey rink.
That much energy devoted to that.
Yeah. And so there's a guy sitting in the video truck, and he's got my feed on a fader. So all the bands 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. He's got Guillaume's feed on another 5-1 fader. Bands 2, 4, 6, 8. He's got the audience mics from Mike Molyneux, and then what he's controlling on his console are the hosts and the playbacks off video. So he's got.
Here's a song we all learned in about the 1st grade. Let's sing it together. Sing God bless America, and that hallowed, stand beside and guide her through the night with a light from above, from the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean, like the dawn. Sing it now, say, God bless America, my home sweet home. Come on, Vegas, sing. God bless America, my home sweet home. Make some noise!
Long live Freddie Mercury.
Did we lose Edward?
Looks like we did.
He'll click his link again. Yeah. We got an echo. Matt, do you have something pulled up besides your one thing?
No, I don't have anything pulled up.
Oh, I had to mute my live stream. That's why.
All right.
Yeah, that wasn't to show that there was fake gunfire. That was to show that if they used crowd mics, the crowd mics could have picked up the real gunfire, and that is why so many witnesses said that they heard it all around them and that it was coming from the speakers. So I wasn't trying to show necessarily that there wasn't gunfire. It was just to show that the crowd mics could have picked it up, so all these witnesses aren't lying. That everyone's saying, no, it didn't come out of speakers, they're lying. So it's like they could have honestly heard it coming out of speakers if there were crowd mics picking it up. So I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, I'm not able to keep up with the chat when I was playing that. There's a lot of people in here talking. Did you have any opinions on that, Matt? I'm just trying to find a logical reason of why all those people thought that they heard it coming from speakers.
I don't know. I don't believe it was from the speakers.
No, I don't either. I think it was real gunfire, but there's so many witnesses that say it was from the speakers. So I'm thinking if there were crowd mics out there, which there are at most concerts, that's why it was playing through the speakers also. They were hearing it come through speakers, but it was real gunfire. It was the speakers were just, the mics were just picking it up.
Right. Yeah, I just think that's really
I think we have a troll named Brad.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm looking at right now, but I don't see it in the comments on my phone here.
Here we go.
But it's showing up in the comments in the live stream on my computer.
Oh, Brad got hidden. That's why we're not seeing it anymore. Opinion Gator is in the chat, and I don't know if anybody's subscribed to that channel, but he has a lot of stuff on the trams, and I've always been very interested in the trams. So I'm wondering if he would like to come on sometime and explain the tram stuff. His videos are all very short, and you have to go read his description to see what he's actually trying to show you. And it's very interesting stuff. And I've always wondered if shots were coming from that tram area. And that's all he covers on his channel. It's a real small channel. So if you guys want to go subscribe to it, it's very interesting if you're interested in the trams.
Yeah, I think people were confused that night.
I think there was a lot of confusion, and there's a lot of drinking going on too. So that's going to add to any kind of confusion. I mean, at a concert, it's like maybe not even just drinking. I mean, they've been out there 3 days in the hot sun. They're dehydrated. They're drinking. They're probably, you know, maybe a couple of them are tripping on something. I mean, you don't know what they're doing at a concert. And then you never expect something like that to happen. So when it does, you're going to be like, well, wait a minute. This is like, you just don't expect it. So your brain can't process it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because then you get people just standing there not doing anything, saying, oh, it's coming from the speakers or their fireworks or firecrackers or, you know, whatever. Then you had people running for their lives. So.
Right.
And then you had people taking cover. So it was a whole mix of things.
And they always say that you don't know whether you'll do fight or flight until it actually happens to you at that moment.
Right.
You know, you might think you'd run, but you might not. You might just hide. And you don't really know what you're going to do until you're in a situation like that.
Right. I mean, because, well, number one, you don't know where the shots are coming from. I mean, you kind of know what direction, but, you know, you're going to take cover at some, you know, somewhere if you can. You know, people were going under the stage and, you know, in other places where they can take cover, or they were just taking cover at where they were at. So then you had people standing up, you know, like nothing was going on.
Yeah, I think those ones were the ones that must have been drinking the most because they were looking around and, you know.
Well, yeah, well, there was that one guy who was standing up and he was giving the finger towards the stage. Remember that one guy?
Yeah, and that's the thing. If you're drinking, you're not really thinking right.
Right.
And they also could have the idea of, you know, running and hiding isn't going to help. I mean, honestly, anywhere those people were running and hiding, the bullets could have went right through. So even though they were hiding and felt safer, they still could have got hit.
Right. But also, where were the shots coming from? That's the thing, you know. It's were they coming from the ground? Were they coming from the air? You know, who knows?
I think they were coming from multiple places. I'm not buying the whole Paddock thing. You know, it's like there's enough places.
I don't buy the Paddock thing at all.
But then again, if they were from the ground, they would have to have had suppressors or something because you're not picking them up. I mean, the whole thing doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and Shay says somebody should get the video footage from the stage facing the crowd. That is what's interesting, is that at concerts, there are a lot of professional people in there videoing the concert for the bands. And it's like, where is that footage? We've never seen it from the stage out, which is very strange because they always have their crew with them that takes all those videos.
Well, I'm sure they probably had it, but it's probably been destroyed.
Because it shows what they don't want us to see?
Possibly. You know, I'm sure the FBI and, you know, they probably said that we need that footage. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Sorry, I'm not talking. I'm trying to follow along the chat. Yeah, there's a lot of missing film because we don't have, you know, we've got a lot of cell phone footage, but for the handful of cell phone footage we have, I think we've collected up maybe, I think LVSA, somebody said last week that they've got like 50 or 60. So it's like, of all those thousands of people that were there, I find it hard to believe that only that many had their cell phones filming. Because I've been at small concerts in indoor places, you know, like little local places that only hold like 5,000 people, and there's way more than 60 cell phones recording.
Of course.
So it's like, where's all that footage, you know?
I'm sure somebody out there has some kind of footage that could turn this whole thing around. And they're probably just sitting on it.
Well, and that's the thing. Either they're sitting on it or they turned it in to the FBI. The Orion website goes along with the FBI vault. I did a video on it about 6 months ago, and it's a place where, you know, you can upload your stuff. So they instructed the people that had all these, you know, cell phone videos and stuff, instead of dropping their phone off, that they could just upload it to this site, and then the FBI would go through it. So none of that has showed up. The FBI vault's supposed to have all this freedom of information stuff that has been asked for. It's supposed to have all those videos, and it's like nothing. It's been over 2 years, and there's nothing getting added to it. Anyways, Edward never said why he left. I'm guessing that his cell phone died. He's been using his cell phone because his computer's broke.
Doesn't he have a cell phone charger?
Yeah, but when he's doing YouTube, it drains faster than it charges if he's got it plugged in while he's using it.
Yeah, I have the same problem.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. If I'm watching YouTube, the battery goes down faster than it goes up.
Yeah, because I'm watching the comments on my phone, and I have my phone plugged in, and it is at 27%. And it won't go up.
Oh, so eventually you're going to drop off too, huh? Yours isn't going up, or is it staying right there?
It goes down, and then it goes up, and then goes down. But I'm not on my phone. I mean, I'm talking to you through my computer. But I'm watching the chat, you know, so I can, like, if I want to type something in the chat, I'm using my phone. Because I can't do it on the computer.
They're having a good time chatting in the chat. I'm just trying to follow along with it. 4RE is a wealth of knowledge. I wish she would come on sometime, and she never wants to come live. But she runs a lot of stuff on Twitter. She's kind of like the Twitter queen of the Las Vegas shooting. And she is a great researcher, and she never wants to come on and talk.
Well, she's more than welcome to come on if she wants to.
I know. I've asked her before. Tommy says the events won't stop until they get every gun from everyone. They're never going to get all of our guns. There would be a civil war before they ever get them. I know they're trying, and they're testing out this stuff in Virginia and these other states, but
the Second Amendment will never go away.
No, it'll never go away. But I do see the thing where, you know, all these shootings just keep happening and happening and happening, and it's like they're going to politicize them all and turn it into a gun thing. And the thing is even if they took our guns, it wouldn't stop the shootings because the bad guys aren't turning theirs in. Right. I'm not turning mine in, and I'm not even a bad guy. So I can guarantee you the thugs down the street from me aren't turning theirs in. I don't know where Brad went, but the funny thing is for Brad being a troll, he was talking about working at Rent-A-Center and my couch was ready or something. And it's like, come on, can't you come up with something better than that?
No, he said the couch that you rented is behind on payments.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was so quick, and then Pastor timed him out. When she did, it disappeared, so I couldn't read it all. Hi, Jim. We have the autopsies. They're not complete autopsies. They say they are, but they're not. Some of them are only a couple pages long, but I've gone through all of the autopsies in depth. And they didn't put the pictures in. They weren't complete. So you can't go through them and know exactly how these bullets went through the people. I mean, they'll mention, went through the chest, went through the arm, but there's no drawings, so they're not showing the angles. Yeah, and it doesn't say the caliber either, and I'm really curious about the caliber because I don't think that that all of those bullets in Paddock's room were the kind that shot all those people. Not from some of the videos we've seen of the wounds.
Yeah.
They were probably harvested before they could be done. Yeah, I went down a harvesting kick for a little bit. People didn't like that, but I think that a lot of those people, the victims and stuff, are probably organ donors, and that might be why their autopsies aren't as complete.
All right, here's the comment from Brad, supposedly. Hi, Kathy.
No, this is Brandon. This is a different person. That's not the person that was the troll.
No, some Brad Saunders. It says, hi, Kathy. I'm Brad from Rent-A-Center.
Oh, where'd you find that?
It's in the chat. I scrolled back up. It's at 10:55 p.m.
Oh, I thought when Pastor timed him out, it would disappear. Okay, what's this comment say?
It says, hi, Kathy. I'm Brad from Rent-A-Center, and the couch you rented, the payments are past due. Please contact the main office, 1-800-639-2947 for payment information. Thanks.
What's that phone number again?
1-800-639-2947.
I wonder if someone should call that number. That would be funny.
I think Rent-A-Center is out of business.
They're not even around anymore?
I don't think so. All the ones by me are gone.
I think the Fit report says 2232, Xander. Yeah, Phoebe, a 223, I mean, I know that these AR-10s and AR-15s look like big scary guns, but a 223 is actually even smaller than a 22, which is what a kid takes to go hunting. Like when you've got your young kid and you're going to first take them and teach them how to hunt. So even though the guns look big and scary, the bullets that are coming out of the ones Paddock was using weren't like big, huge bullets. They were actually small. You wouldn't want to like use a big one and blow a deer's head off because then you're going to like ruin your deer head. So they have smaller bullets. And a lot of people are under the impression that these, would be huge and, be blowing people's arms off and stuff, but they're not. If he was using .223s, they're actually not that large.
I think Edward's saying that he's back. He might be in the basement.
He is. Look at that. Do you have to charge your phone, darling?
No, I had to take care of something real quick, but I'm back.
Okay, welcome back. We're having a nice chat. You missed the troll. My couch payments are overdue.
Oh, hell. You better get on. You better get to paying.
I need a new couch. I should call Rent-A-Center. I probably got bad credit with them now, though, since I'm behind on my payments.
Probably. Yeah, we have like errands here instead of Rent-A-Center, so I don't know if Rent-A-Center's out of business or not.
I think they're
no one gets to check the ballistics from the Carvers. The Carvers weren't shot. The Carvers were the ones that had the car accident. So there wouldn't be ballistics on them, but that car accident was awful fishy.
Are you talking about the people that were at the concert and they were in that car accident?
Yeah.
A week later or something?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, Double K, how are you? Phoebe, her Twitter name is the same one she's using. Ed had to drop the little ones in the pool, says HVAC.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty funny. I keep trying to get HVAC to come on, and he says no because people wouldn't like him. I don't know why he thinks people wouldn't like him. Or he said it wouldn't make people happy. He's more narrative than we are, but I still would like to hear from him. Maybe if you guys all tell him, come on, he'll come on. Double K, do you want to come on and talk? Or Xander, anybody? If anyone wants to talk, I can put the link in the chat. I'm kind of all talked out, but we've got 43 people in here, and they're chatting up a storm, so they're enjoying this chat.
I wouldn't put that in the chat. That's not a good idea.
Well, if they come in the basement, I have to choose to let them in the stream, so it's okay.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, they just go on the bottom. Yeah, I would not ever put a stranger in the stream again after the last time Edward did that. They showed porn. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
Discerning light, that would be dear Edward. He watches TV and has his air conditioning going while we're live streaming.
I'm not watching TV. It's just on.
She heard it. Well, when Xander was on, we could hear his birds, so that was kind of cute. Fo, if there's any of them that are lost, yeah, email me copies of them. I saw the 2 new ones that HDR CFX just did. They were really good. And Gloria says many trajectories went from the top of the head directly down into the torso. That would clearly determine the shots came from above. Actually, the autopsies did not say that they came from the top of the head directly down into the torso. They would just say what angle they went through. The autopsies were very strange and not complete. Like I said, there weren't drawings, and the autopsies didn't show trajectories. If you watched the Hoover video that showed the trajectories, those drawings were drawings that he made. They weren't drawings in the autopsies. If anybody needs all of the autopsies because they want to read them, I've got them on my Google Drive. I could email you a link to. No, Mike, we think it happened. I mean, some people might not, but I think it happened. Let's twist HVAC's arm and get him to come on. No, the newer ones I saw, Fo, was the part 1 and part 2. They were hilarious. Whose phone battery's beeping? Does that mean your phone's going to die?
No, that's a different phone. I don't think he did it. Who, Stephen Paddock? I don't believe Stephen Paddock did it.
I don't think Stephen Paddock did it. Xander's got a good answer. Good night, Brandon.
Hey, fine, Spy.
I can hardly keep up with the chat. Yeah, Gloria, I can't stand autocorrect either. Tommy says, we are not free when we are allowing the totally corrupt FBI to get away with evil. The world is upside down. I feel like I live in the Twilight Zone. We have to dismantle the FBI or they won't stop. I couldn't agree with you more. There's been a lot of dirty FBI stuff in the news in the last 2 years. How was work, Fawn Spy?
Patrick, what are you talking about? You don't think maybe it was Patrick with another shooter and Patrick didn't know he was going to be double crossed?
Yeah, I don't know which Patrick he's talking about, if he's talking about Paddock's brother or not. Fawn Spy's exhausted. I tried to get her to come on the show tonight, but she had to work, and she said she'd be sick when she got home from work. Are you still not feeling good, Fawn Spy? Because it's not too late to come on. You or HVAC could add some good balance to this. I'm trying to follow the chat. Callie is nice as anytime one of these shootings happen, they are sensationalized to fit a narrative to keep the American people in a constant state of trauma. I agree with that too. There's some really good comments flowing through here. Phoebe, that's the $1 million question. So if Paddock was set up, all planned well ahead, who did it and what's the motive? We do not know. I don't know. I don't think anybody really has the answers. All we can do is look at what they've given us. And I think that if they would give us more and be more transparent, we probably wouldn't all be here speculating.
MSAT says, why wasn't Mary Lou interrogated or interviewed? Didn't the FBI meet her at the plane so they can interview her?
Charles is back.
Did the FBI not meet her at the plane to interview her?
The FBI interviewed her, I believe, at one of the offices because the lawyer came out of a building and gave his little speech. So it might have been the lawyer's office. Right. I'm not sure.
But the FBI picked her up at the airport and brought her to the office, right? Allegedly.
I don't know who picked her up from the airport, allegedly, but I do know that she was interviewed. But when they released all the documents to us, we do not have an interview from her, and we do not have an interview from Eric Paddock. We have one from Eric's wife.
You don't think the FBI didn't meet her at the plane as she was landing and say, "Hey, come on, you're coming with me"?
I have no idea who met her at the plane. They never said. I have no idea. I think she was in Vegas. I don't think she ever flew into LAX. I think that was a decoy.
Too,
I think that was a decoy too, but they still had, according to the story, if we're going to go with the story right now.
Well, yeah, JC says she was shown in a wheelchair at the airport. Yes, that was the Los Angeles airport, and that was supposedly Mary Lou Danley. But if she was in Vegas, then that would have been a decoy, and we don't really know one way or another.
Yep,
I just don't believe a whole lot of what they've told us.
Yeah, I remember hearing that they had taken her from the airport and brought her to
the FBI office or whatever. Okay.
In LA?
I don't know if it was LA or Vegas, one of the two.
Well, the airport she came in the wheelchair was LA, and that's where her daughter lives.
Right.
So she would have had to get on another plane and fly to Vegas.
No, that makes no sense. They would have brought her to the LA FBI headquarters.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, and that's probably where her lawyer was that gave the speech outside.
Yep.
But like I said, some flight records on that would be nice.
Yeah, there's no flight records. There's no nothing.
the paperwork on Campos going to Mexico, you know, these are things that it's like we're speculating on a bunch of stuff, but it's like if they would just give us the stuff and we could see it, it would close a lot of our questions. But as long as we still have questions, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that completely buy the narrative, hook, line, and sinker. And, you know, so they're saying, oh, the case is solved. Why are you guys still talking about it? And it's like, not solved for me. I don't trust the government. I'm sorry. You know, Lombardo got on there at 1:30 and said sole shooter. And it's like, I drove by. The next day, there was a roadblock. I was on my way to the airport to fly home. There was a roadblock up. The cop said, oh, you know, I asked what's going on. I mean, I knew there was a shooting the night before, but he said they're still collecting bodies and bullets out of the venue. So it's like, well, there's no way then Lombardo at 1:30 in the morning knew there was a sole shooter, did he? Because they let those bodies stay in there overnight. Nobody went in and started picking bullets out of them. So I knew the whole thing was a lie. So I'm not going to believe the narrative until they give us what we need, and they're not.
How are we going to compare dental records with the man that's been cremated?
Yeah, he's already been cremated, Shay. And his brother's answer to the dental records was that my brother never went to the dentist because he didn't like the dentist. And I can't believe anyone's 64 years old and never went, even if their mom dragged him as a kid.
Yeah, he had dental records alive, but what do you want to compare him to? The dead body? You can't. He's cremated.
Well, yeah, they could have compared him before they cremated him, though.
Right.
And I've researched and found out that when you cremate a body, you almost, I mean, not always, not 100%, but it's like it pretty much ruins any DNA in there. So you couldn't even open up that box and test it because chances are the DNA is ruined because of the heat of the crematorium. And another thing is they don't clean the crematorium out in between people. So there could be like a little bit of ashes from somebody before him mixed in there. So you could never check DNA on ashes and get a perfect match. So they can't even do that. It's like whatever's in the box is done. Once they cremated his body, there's nothing else that can be done. No peak heel. He did not have dentures. He had really bad teeth. And when he shot himself in the mouth, a bunch of his teeth got blown out. But yeah, he didn't have dentures.
You're acting like this is him.
What?
I said, you're acting like that's actually him.
Oh, I'm just giving benefit of the doubt. No, I don't think it's him at all. I'm just reading along their questions in the chat. Because, yeah, I don't want to push, like, my ideas on somebody else. It's like if somebody else thinks it's really him, then they can think that, you know, just because we don't think it is. Charles came back in. Xander gets the prize. No, I don't think he killed himself, Tommy. And I think he was already dead on the floor. And I think that the information they've put out was confusing on purpose, just to keep people spinning around. The majority of people in America paid attention to this for about 2 weeks and then moved on with their life. What's so funny, Edward?
I'm laughing at Discerning Light.
Discerning Light, that is probably the best comment I've ever seen. Supposedly the teeth were blown out and still shaking around inside his mouth, just like the bullet was still shaking around inside his head. You're right. There were no teeth. The autopsy specifically talks about how these teeth got blown out from the gun, but there's no teeth laying on the floor. And you would think if he blew teeth out, was he going to like close his lips real quick? So that's a very good point that I hadn't thought of with the little yellow evidence numbers. That is great. I'm going to have to go back and read his autopsy just to see how they describe the teeth again now. She beat out Xander with the comment of the day, that's for sure.
She did.
But see, these are all the little things that's like they've fed us in all these documents. And, you know, like I said, half the world 2 weeks later just went on with their lives. There's like this group of us that this is driving us crazy and gnawing at us. And I think the other group, that pushes the narrative all the time, there's still aspects of it that they even find strange, and that's the thing. It's like they just need to be transparent and give us the information that we need.
We'll never
I at least want to hear his voice. If nothing else comes of this, I want to hear his voice.
Why is hearing his voice so important to you, Charles?
Because we haven't heard it.
Wait a minute, Glory is trying to beat out the other two on the best comment of the night. The people that buy the narrative probably watch CNN.
No, that's close, but I don't.
That's a good one, Gloria.
That is a pretty good one. That's close.
Oh, Tim, I don't know. We're gonna have to give out a prize here. The teeth and the broken glass.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Taking a
That's the
souvenir
comment of the night now.
to be given out by 5 by 5. I didn't realize it was going to get this funny in here.
All right. Well, Tim's the new champion. Let's see if anyone can beat that.
Well, and Marty says he leans towards the narrative, same as HVAC, but the missing bits keep him up at night still. And I think everyone's like that. Even people that believe the narrative, there's still some weird, odd things that just don't make sense.
Like not hearing his voice.
Oh, yeah, you were getting ready to tell us. There's no voice, but why should there be voice? Because it's like if I had my voice of a family member, I'm not going to release it to the media.
Yes, that's a valid argument, yes, except for one thing. This isn't your family member. This is a 64-year-old suspect in the largest mass shooting in U.S. history, pilot, former Fed, real estate agent, rich guy, high roller, Vegas traveler, international traveler, and he is dead, and there's not really, there's 7 electronic devices in the room, all these things, and not one single recording has been released of his voice. And my question is simple. Why?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Charles on that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
there should be a recording.
There's no like video of him at a party or anything or nothing.
The guy's been going to Vegas for years. He's recorded on multiple. You would think there'd be some reporter or somebody out there saying, hey, this is a recording of Paddock, and just release it. You would think. I mean, his dad is on recording. Benjamin Paddock. We have his voice. We have Eric's voice. We have Bruce's voice. We don't have Steven's voice for some reason here. Benjamin Paddock is also dead, but we know what he sounds like. We've seen video and audio of Benjamin Paddock, but not Steven.
Well, you do have a point, Charles.
Info says rubber dummies have molded teeth. You guys are cracking me up tonight.
Jay says, so we don't recognize it somewhere down the road.
Yeah, Shay, if he's alive somewhere. The FBI agents involved are now wearing the teeth. Oh my God, hang on. I got to put that up there.
Like a shark tooth neck.
Where did it go?
Scroll up.
You know, voice analysis could be very powerful.
The FBI agents involved are now wearing the teeth on a chain around their necks like shark tooth necklaces. You guys are cracking me up tonight. This is great. And Shay says Mary Lou would have video. You know she does. And that's true. Everyone's got like video of people at family parties and stuff.
You would think somebody would sell some. I mean, I don't know. That's my little voice tangent for the night. I'm done.
Pastor Mo says the teeth were taken with the missing chair. Matt says they were sold on eBay to the highest bidder. How much would you pay for one of those teeth? You know, there's people that collect stuff for mass murderers and serial killers and stuff.
They would go for some money. I'll tell you that. I'm sure.
I'd pay a lot for a Paddock tooth, but I don't think I'd have enough money to pay for what they'd really go for.
Would you pay for a Paddock interview?
I already interviewed him on the phone when it was Eric, and I'm pretty sure it was Steven. I know that's creepy to say, but yeah, that 20 minutes that I talked to Eric on the phone, I had the creepiest feeling that I was talking to Steven.
Well, okay, but the person on the bed was Eric. I got facial recognition software that proves that.
Then I didn't talk to Steven, it was Eric. But how good is your facial recognition software? If it's an app you get on your phone, that might not be as good as what the FBI would have.
Because basically, if it's pretty good. It's 93.6% sure.
JCJ, when Benjamin Paddock went to prison, his wife and kids did move to California, but they didn't use names for witness protection. They all have the same names. I mean, the dad's Benjamin Hoskins Paddock. That was his mother's maiden name. And he actually used a bunch of aliases all the time that are the same names as his kids, which was really weird. Sometimes he went by Bingo Bruce. Sometimes he went by Patrick, Benjamin. Sometimes I think Stephen was the only name he never used as an alias, which is kind of weird to bring that point up. If Stephen never existed, that's why the dad never used that as an alias. Anyone ever think of that?
It's as weird as not hearing his voice.
A lot of people have two different social security numbers on record. I mean, not for some fluke or whatever. Like Mary Lou Danley had two. There were several people that had two.
It's not normal to have two.
It's not normal to have two, no. But I'm just saying, if they're going by the Turber report, you know, a lot of people have two.
But it's not that they have two. They'll show somebody else that might be using the same social security number.
Yes.
That doesn't mean you have two. Like on my background report, it shows some lady in Massachusetts might be using my social security number. So I inquired about that and was told that if someone filled out an application somewhere and accidentally did a typo, someplace it could show up like that. But that doesn't mean I have two social security numbers, or that other lady does.
I think that's what JCJ meant, though, with the two social security numbers, right?
Paddock only had one social security number.
Right.
Now, Campos, on the other hand, was using the social security number of a dead infant that has the name of his first name and his mom's maiden name.
Yeah, middle name A.
Jesus A. Quintero.
Yep.
And his mom's Angela Quintero.
Born in 1990, died 1992. About a year and a half old baby, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'm wrong. I might be off on the dates. I think I'm right, though.
I think it's about a year and a half old. Yeah, there's some weird stuff with Campos. Then you throw Shuck into the mix with the brother that used to work for North LVMPD and do active
now does
shooter
active
training
shooter
drills.
training drills in Washington State.
Yep. And he's SWAT. So yeah, there's just a lot of weird things.
Truth seeker.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to bed now.
You need some more coffee to stay up?
No, I think I'm going to bed.
We had a good roll here. We've been going for 2.5 hours. Good night, Charles. Thanks for all your help.
Good night, Charles.
Thanks, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Oh, 4RE, yeah. Wait a minute.
How far behind is 4RE in the audio of this? We said that like 15 minutes ago.
She's having side conversations. I would pay for mass murder body parts, not necessarily body parts like an arm or a leg. I'm talking like a lock of hair or a tooth. But you got to understand, I saved all my kids' baby teeth, not like every single tooth.
When I was a little
kid, we went out in the woods and found where some dead cows died, and I collected up their teeth and I had them in my little special box for like 15 years before my mom was like, you need to throw those away. So yeah, I'm kind of sick like that. But yeah, I wouldn't pay for an arm or a leg or anything, but definitely teeth.
Or a liver or a patch of skin for a graft? No, I don't think
so.
No,
I would never know. Nothing like that. And yeah, 4RE Quintero is the name.
Jesus A. Quintero. It's a child. You can find it on findagrave.com. It's born in 1990, died in 1992.
4RE already knows all that.
Yep.
She knew that a long time ago. I think she's just clarifying for other people. JCJ says they put bodies donated to science in freezers, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a feeling that body on the floor in that room came out of a freezer. Wait a minute.
No, I don't think so. Freezers will preserve, like, they won't turn that color. That's just a body that was sitting out in the morgue.
Right, but he could have already been that color before he went in the freezer. Good night, Gloria. Have a good night. Thanks for hanging with us. Forey wants to know why Campos was allowed to go to Mexico. I have no idea.
Yes, they took the body.
Part of this.
I don't believe
Yes,
Campos went to Mexico.
They said he did.
Not sure.
Well, just because they said they did,
said a lot of things.
Yeah. Well, like I said before, you know, about my thing on Campos, you know, with him making that statement about the cart, you know, they didn't see the cart in the hallway. I think that was I think they got scared when he made that statement because he was supposed to go on those interviews the next day.
And that was his excuse?
And no, it was his excuse. They got scared, meaning the FBI and the LVMPD.
That he was going to talk.
You know, say that he didn't see the cart in the hallway.
Well, Mike Turber says he has his rental car receipts.
Do you believe what Mike Turber says?
Nope.
Okay.
Pastor Mo says, didn't they send his brain out to examine it? Yeah, his brain went to Stanford University to be tested and came back with not really anything remarkable.
Yeah.
Other than that there was a bullet dodged through it, you know, but
right.
But they didn't come up. But the thing is, there's a lot of mental illnesses that you can do a brain scan and they're not going to show up.
That's not his brain.
Well, I know. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, though. If it was his brain, they sent somebody's brain to Stanford University to be checked.
Somebody's brain. Okay.
This is turning out to be a riot here. I'm sure that the clowns will be making videos tomorrow.
If they want Stephen Paddock's brain, they're going to have to go over to the Philippines and get it.
Campos was not a dual citizen. Does anybody know if Mary Lou was?
Yes, Mary Lou is, because Mary Lou has Campos has a Social Security number too. I think Mary Lou still has citizenship.
Campos lived in California and was born with his mother here. His father's in Mexico, and the rest of his family's in Mexico, like his extended family. But his mom had that baby in California. And Jesus is a couple years younger than that baby, so I'm going to guess Jesus's birth certificate says United States.
I'm assuming that Mary Lou Danley has Australian citizenship as well as American citizenship.
Sleep Depp had pulled those papers and gave them to me a long time ago, and I don't remember what they said, but yeah, I think she does have dual citizenship.
What about with her being originally from the Philippines? Wouldn't she still have?
I don't know. Can you be a citizen of 3 countries?
I don't think so.
Probably not.
She probably had to. I don't know.
Maybe she was an Australian and Philippine citizen, and that was her dual citizenship, and she never was a citizen. Actually, though, wait a minute. She was a U.S. citizen because there was an important person that worked at the State Department that sponsored her and signed her papers to become a U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. I remember Sleep Depp pointing that out. So for sure, she was a U.S. citizen.
Pastor Mo, the brain went into a jar and was sent into Connecticut.
Oh, after Stanford had the brain, they sent it back, I'm assuming, to the coroner's office when they cremated the body. The body didn't get cremated till late December. And the murder, death, whatever, supposedly was October 1st. So they had almost 3 months to play with that brain.
Xander, keyword is had. They probably destroyed it by now so that they couldn't get DNA off of it.
They never really stipulated that I know of whether Stanford sent it back to the coroner or not. I think they sent it back. I think they examined it and they sent it back with the report.
We don't know, though, Pastor Mo. I'm not sure. I don't think we know for sure.
I would have to look through the paperwork. I could read his autopsy. I'm not going to do it right now, but I could read his autopsy. It's got all the Stanford paperwork there, and there'll be a chain of custody statement somewhere in that paperwork that'll say what they did with the brain after. I just have to find it, and then I'll drop it in your live stream, Pastor Mo, on Monday. I'll find the answer by then. Marty, is that true? I don't know what Marty said.
He's saying Trump implemented policy for no more dual citizenship.
I don't know about that. I don't pay enough attention to that. And here we go, Foe, my favorite guy. You can buy donated corpses for medical studies. Maybe something like first-year students practiced autopsies on the 58. It seems like it, because I'll tell you what, I don't think that those coroners were that incompetent. They are, you know, when you read up on these coroners, they are well respected. They've been doing these autopsies for years. They're not incompetent people. And those are the most incompetent autopsies I've ever seen. And I've showed them to other doctors. Xander's showed them to doctors. There's some messed up stuff. And I don't think that they were incompetent. So it is possible that they had medical students do them and the doctors just signed off on them. But for the biggest mass murder in modern history, you think they'd have done it right.
Yeah.
One would just think that it would be important enough. Coroners getting licensed in Nevada. The the one coroner that was from Michigan that we thought they flew in to do the autopsy, when I dug in on him, he already was licensed in Nevada and had an office in Nevada. So he had an office in both places. And supposedly he doesn't practice anymore in Michigan, but he still has an office in Michigan. But he does have a Nevada license. That was Leonard Ricchiro, who's buddies with the coroner. With Paddock being a meticulous, anal person, why would he have crappy gardening gloves and no hearing protection? I agree with that. Ferrari's got a side conversation going on in there. She is always full of great information. Xander, do you want to come on and talk a little bit? Gloria's back. She thought she was going to go to bed. She was missing too much fun in here. Jim, I think it was an act of terrorism. Even if it was domestic terrorism, it's like, how could you not call this terrorism? I mean, I know the government has its own definition of it, but even if Paddock did do it and the narrative's true, it still to me seems like domestic terrorism. An opinion gator, I am very interested in this tram stuff. I'll tell you that. That a lot of people don't hit on that, but I went and drove around and looked at that tram, and I've found videos of the the places that it goes and the way it is. And there's a little hut underneath it, kind of hidden underneath the bushes where the shooter could have hidden. You could have been up in the tram tracks. There was a big chunk missing out of the wall on the tram. There was some interesting stuff with this tram. Ferrari's got a good one here. The person that was arrested on the border has Quintero in their name and is related to El Chapo. I have no idea if it's connected, but found it ironic they let him go to Mexico. Well, I'll tell you what, Ferrari, that goes right along with those lines. Edward and I went digging through the family tree of Campos. Actually, we traced through Facebook friends and found his dad and some uncles and some other people, and it's like they look like cartel people to me. I mean, you can't tell, no one's going to post it on their Facebook page what they're doing, but definitely a whole big family chain he's got there in Mexico that look like those type of people. So if you've got an El Chapo connection, I wouldn't think that that's something to throw out the window. I'm not saying that they're cartel or anything, but it's like that it doesn't seem so strange to me. And I think the cartel was involved in this, not necessarily through Campos necessarily, but I think a lot of them came up through the Mexican border and took a part in this, different jobs. Yeah, I know, Opinion Gator. It's the tram station and not the tram. I just followed the tracks, though, because the tracks take you through the station. So I made a couple of videos where it's actually a tram ride going through the station so you could see where the stops were and you could see how it entered into the tram tunnels at the different stops. Uh-oh, Fo, what do we got that's breaking news? Fo said breaking news, but didn't say what it was. Oh, he's answering someone else in the... Uh-oh. Militants have attacked a military base in Kenya, which houses U.S. soldiers, along with local troops. Did you just see that on the news? We're going to have a lot of these things happen over the next couple days. I haven't had the news on since we've been doing this. Yeah, this Iran thing's really going to start some stuff. Oh, the other Mary Lou was, what was her brother's last name? Bustos Navidad? Do you remember, Edward?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was another name thrown in there, though. There were 4 names. One of them was, oh, maybe I'm just thinking of the brother's first name. But yeah, Bustos was the other name thrown in with Navidad. And it ended up being, I think, that it was her brother's wife and they had them mixed up. Or at least that was the cover story. Thanks, Xander. Have a good night. This was really fun. Yeah, I agree. Fo's been keeping up with this Iran thing really, really hot. Every time he's in a live chat, he's got an update. Oh, no, Opinion Gator. We're not going to have another Vegas mass shooting. They're going to go to another city. They got to mix them up. Vegas already collected all their money off of those. Yeah, the Navidads was a Philippines name. It was her brother's wife, and they're all from the Philippines. And the brother disappeared for a while. Do you guys remember that? When Mary Lou's brother went missing and then he came back?
I don't remember.
Marty said we're pronouncing it wrong. Hang on, I'm going to put his thing up there so you can see the right spelling. Are you sure, Marty? That looks like too many letters to me, but I haven't looked at that paperwork in a long time. P. Keel says distraction, stay focused. Foe does like to distract a little bit, but he's a good guy. Oh, Marty, you're friends with all of the Mary Lou family? So you scoped out the niece that's the drug dealer? There's so much that never gets explained. And that's the thing. It's like anytime someone comes up with a question about something, there's always someone that's like really quick to give an explanation. And I'm more like, I'll go with anything, you know, because none of us really know. It's not worth arguing with someone about because you just don't know for sure. Pastor got lost looking for a brain. She found an interesting article. There was a lot of scarring in the brain, Stanford said, but we never heard that from Lombardo. Did you just pull up his autopsy and the brain work? I would have to do some research and find out what would cause scarring of the brain. Because, I mean, it wouldn't have been scarred over yet from those bullets. So what would cause scarring on your brain? I know he had spinal surgery at one point, but I don't think that would do it.
I think they'd have to elaborate on what scarring of the brain actually meant.
It could have just been lesions or something.
Right.
Oh, she said it's a recent article from a guy that did the brain. Oh, save me that article, Pastor. I want to read that. Send it to my messenger because if this video gets taken down by YouTube, I won't be able to find that link. Wait a minute, Marty, what's up with the casino? Yes, it is true that Brian Hodge worked at the same casino. It was the Gold Coast Casino as Mary Lou, but it's a huge casino. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they knew each other. Oh, there's a good one. Discerning Light said, could the scarring be bacterial or parasites? Ooh, that's creepy. There used to be a show on TV that used to show all these like bugs in the body, and it's like I couldn't watch it. It creeped me out too much. No, Hodge isn't really too young to have worked there at the same time because she was pretty old when she worked there. It wasn't like she worked there when she was 20. Hodge worked there shortly before he moved to the United States, which was not too many years prior to the shooting. I had a video on Hodge with all his like famous people he got his pictures taken with. And I don't think they worked there at the same time though, because Hodge worked, I don't know if they changed the name to Jupiter Casino or if Gold Coast Casinos is a chain and that was the name, but he worked at Jupiter. So I think the name changed between him and Mary Lou, but I'm not really sure.
Well, Mary Lou Danley moved to the United States to like Memphis in like 1989, 1990.
Oh, then Hodge would have been too young to work with her. She never went back?
She never went back to stay, no, because she was married to Gary, and then she never went back there to stay and work.
Marty's saying not the same time. It's been Jupiter for a long time. Yeah, if she moved to Memphis that long ago, then there's no way they worked there together. That's just a coincidence.
Because look, it said she married and lived in Tennessee and Arkansas, and then separated from Gary Danley, and then moved to Reno. So yeah, she didn't go back to Australia.
Yeah, I forgot of her little Danley or Gary Danley thing. There was some weird stuff about one of his daughters working for somebody. God, 4RE, do you remember that? One of Danley's daughters was well connected to somebody, and I can't remember who. Oh, Marty's going to know about Gary then. Marty, do you know the answer to that?
The answer to what?
Well, they're just 4RE and Marty are real knowledgeable about Danley.
Well, I got whatever Danley's. I got Danley's part pulled up here. What are you asking?
Speaking of Memphis, when Gary Danley was living in Memphis, he was listed with FAA as an airplane mechanic. And Gary Danley is friends with a lot of the Bustos in the Philippines on Facebook. Marty's the Facebook stalker of the Danleys. See, it's funny when you get a group of people together because there's a lot of people that like research different angles, like whatever your quirk is. But then when you get together in a group like this, people put pieces together. I didn't dig into the Danley family much. I know Edward did, and Sleep Dep did, and Marty did, and 4RE. But I was busy digging into other stuff. I spent a lot of time on the autopsies. So, Marty, do you think Mary Lou was in Vegas when it happened, or do you really think that she was over in the Philippines? Yeah, I remember when they named Gary Danley, and originally they were passing around cell phone pictures. The police were. It showed up in body cam, and Gary Danley's picture showed up on there too. And then all of a sudden it became Stephen Paddock. That might have just been because her license and stuff or whatever he was using, her player's card or something up in the room. Opinion Gator says, so most people think the FBI is corrupt that they put Paddock in the room. I think they are so evil that they took all the dead bodies for the Mandalay tram station and put them at the Route 91 venue. That's creepy, but there was people inside the venue that saw people die. So I don't know how they'd be able to go stash those bodies over there. Maybe some of them, but I don't think they'd be able to do it with all 58. So, Marty, did you screenshot her profile before it came down? Isn't Marty the little spy? He's like going after Danley big time. So everything seemed like she was still with Gary Danley. So maybe they made up all that stuff about Paddock. Maybe they put her undercover to go follow Paddock around to bust him for whatever he was up to. And she was still with Gary. They were still, weren't they still legally married? Because she still used that name? Or did they get a divorce?
No, they were divorced. She just decided to keep that name. Better than Busto, whatever the hell it was, I guess. Probably what she figured.
The whole thing with Danley is just strange, and it's really sad that Nene passed away because she had done so much Danley research, and she was getting ready to put another part out. I mean, she really just traced that lady to death, and now we're never going to get it. Someone else will have to pick up and dig the rest of the stuff out on Danley. Marty, I think somebody has screenshots of all of that. I don't remember who, but I know way back when someone had all the screenshots of Danley's page before it went down. Is Venice where she's at? I knew they were in LA, but I didn't know they were in Venice. Venice is infested with homeless transients now. So 4RE didn't get the screenshots either. Trump woke up tweeting at the same time Islamists attacked Manda Bay. What's Manda Bay? Are you talking about Mandalay Bay?
No, Manda Bay is a place in Kenya.
Oh, that's the place, okay, that he was talking about the attack. Well, Trump probably got a phone call and was told to wake up. Discerning Light, if you hang out at the grocery stores there, you have a good chance of running into her. Matt, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, you've been quiet. I'm going to be quiet so you can talk for a while. You and Edward are always quiet. I talk too much.
Well,
I don't really have much to say, and
yeah, neither do I. And I'm tired. I gotta get some sleep.
Okay, you guys, let's sign off. It was a good chat. We went for 3 hours.
3 hours.
We were only going to go for about an hour. So we'll sign off now, and Pastor Mo is going to do one next Monday at 7 p.m.
This upcoming Monday, 2 days from now.
So if you're not subscribed to Pastor Mo,
time.
7 Eastern?
No, 8 Eastern, 7 Central.
Okay. If you're not subscribed to Pastor Mo, subscribe to her. If you're not subscribed to me or Edward or Matt, please subscribe to us, because sometimes we do these live streams on Edward's channel, and Matt's done a couple, and he might do some more if we get him some more subscribers. But definitely subscribe to Pastor Mo if you don't want to miss her thing on Monday. Did Pastor Mo leave already?
I don't know.
Because if she puts a comment in right now, they'll be able. Oh, there she is. Okay, where she says good night. If you guys click on those 3 dots to the right of her name, one of them will say go to profile, and then you can subscribe. And please hit the thumbs up on this video. I always like to see how many people actually watched it and liked it. Okay, you guys got anything else you want to say?
No, good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.